Hi, everyone, and welcome to our unscheduled meeting of Council on Tuesday, 24th of March, 2026. To start the official proceedings, I want to acknowledge that we meet today on the rather stormy lands of the Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation, and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings, including this one, are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Present, myself, Mayor Toby Hayden, Deputy Mayor Matt Driscoll, Councillors Hastwell, Anea, Maddock, Cordy, and Walker. Councillor Maltby is the only apology. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest or conflicts of interest? Okay, so at section 4, officer reports, we have nil. And so we move on to 4.5, 2026-2027 budget hearing of public submissions. So welcome everyone, and thanks for registering to present your budget submissions today. I'll just step through the rules for public hearing of budget submissions. So the purpose of this meeting is to hear members of the public speak on their 2026-2027 budget submissions. Only those who have pre-registered to speak at this meeting will be able to speak to their submission. There will be no suspension of standing orders. Therefore, other members of the public will not be able to ask questions. Each speaker in addressing the council, 1, will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. 2, shall extend due courtesy and respect to the council and the processes under which it operates. 3, shall take direction from myself as chair of the meeting whenever I call upon a speaker to do so. 4, shall not attempt to enter into discussion or debate with council. However, councillors may ask questions of clarification of the speaker. May being the operative word. Please note, councillors may ask questions if required to clarify or understand the detail of your submission. Questions may not be required for all submissions, and the absence of any questions from councillors is not an indication of the level of interest. This meeting of council is minuted. Therefore, you must state your name clearly, state if you are representing a group or organisation, and state in a few words what you wish to raise. Please note that as chair, I may cease or reject a statement deemed unacceptable under clause 12.1.5 of the Governance Rules 2020. If so, I will advise the speaker of the basis for this decision. Where deemed necessary, I may also require the speaker to leave the chamber in accordance with the governance rules. In accordance with clause 12.1.5 of the governance rules, a statement may be deemed unacceptable if it 1, relates to a matter outside the duties, functions and powers of the council. 2, is defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial or objectionable in language or substance. 3, is aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of council staff. 4, relates to personnel matters. 5, relates to the personal hardship of any resident or ratepayer. 6, relates to industrial matters. 7, relates to contractual matters. 8, relates to legal advice. 9, relates to a planning matter already listed on the council meeting agenda. 10, relates to matters affecting the security of council property, or 11, relates to any other matter which the council considers would prejudice the council or any person. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing your budget submissions. Can I ask Pat Grumont, Pat Grumont from Buda to come forward, please? Yes, please. Sure.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name's Pat Cremont and I'm here with Bronwyn Rudolph. We're representing Buda Historic Home and Garden, one of Mount Alexander's Shire's most treasured cultured assets. And quite simply, one of Victoria's finest example of living heritage. Buda, though, is more than a historic home. It's a living part of this community. It supports local playgroups, welcomes visitors from across the region, the state, the country, and of course, internationally as well now. Plays a really important role in tourism and cultural life in the Mount Alexander Shire. But what really sustains Buda is its people. We currently have more than 125 volunteers who keep the doors open, the gardens alive, and the experience meaningful for our tourists and visitors. The level of commitment's extraordinary, but it also has its limits. At the moment, Council gives us $12,500 as an annual grant, and we really appreciate that. However, in practical terms, that pays for our insurance. And so that allows us to exist, but not to operate to its properly. We're requesting that be doubled. We're requesting that we receive another $12,500 to bring the total to $25,000. Not for expansion, not for new projects, simply to support the basic administration that keeps Buda functioning. Coordinating volunteers, managing compliance, handling bookings, and communication. While we're successful in securing grants to restore and rejuvenate, those funds are strictly tied, as you would know, to the physical works, and they can't be used for administration. So we find ourselves in that really difficult position, able to restore the buildings, but struggle to sustain the organisation itself. Without this support, the pressure on our volunteers becomes unsustainable, and without those volunteers, Buda can't continue to operate as it does today. This request is quite simply about survival. So today we're asking Council to consider a modest but vital adjustment to increase the annual grant to $25,000, which would ensure that Buda is not only preserved as a place, but sustained as a functioning, accessible, community-driven institution. This is an investment in heritage, in tourism, and community wellbeing. Most of all, it's an investment in continuity, ensuring that Buda remains open, active, and alive for future generations. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks very much, Pat. I'm just curious as to how is Buda currently sustaining its operations if you've got that level of shortfall in terms of basic administration?
Through the, we have a garden room that is open and that we have as a place for people to hire. We have people coming through the gates to pay for it. We have functions like we had our traditional arts fair and we're about to have a Hungarian fair. So it's that type of, we do high teas, all volunteer based though. And it's, and at the moment, as you will be well aware, things are pretty dire. You sort of falls through the cracks in that we've had that horrible weather, which has really affected our income and visitation. Yeah. That help?
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Maddock.
We're just going to leave a little brochure with you. You have one each.
I'll pass them around.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Just sort of following on from Rosalie's question. So if you weren't to get this increase in funds, what would be the impact on the organisation? So you're saying that you couldn't sustain volunteers? Like, is it an existential?
Keep struggling.
Yeah.
You can see we're all getting older.
Operating budget is for our turnover is 200,000. had a shortfall of about 11,000 last year, and it looks like it's going to be worse this year. So we're
Okay, so that it's looking at covering that shortfall. So it's about long-term financial sustainability.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
it's about.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't realise you wanted to speak.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that. I'll call Christine Henderson. You could come forward, please. Former councillor, former mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of the Box Ironbark Forest. We want millions. No, we put in a submission. First of all, we really want to thank you for the new cat control aspect of your domestic animal management plan. So now I read, not on the website, which still tells me it's only sunset to sunrise, but elsewhere in the actual plan itself says there's now a 24-hour cat curfew or cats to be contained on the property. So we're very happy about that. What we want now is two things. First of all, we want awareness raising, as it says on the website, because you can't actually you won't be nasty and start charging people fines for cats at large until everyone in the community should have learned that the cats are meant to be kept on the property. How do we do that? Website, of course, council's website updated, social media, including Castlemania, the place where everyone goes for everything, the local newspaper. As you probably know, Castlemaine Mail every week is advertising delightful cats and kittens you can go and pick up. How about a banner just on the top of that saying, please be aware, all cats to be kept on the property at all times as per local law. People need to know that. More needs to know that very clearly. So please, could you add something regularly to Moore's column? It might take a bit of money to help them along with that, to actually add something to tell people the rules under which they get a cat in this shire. So we want to see your wonderful comms department empowered and maybe get just a little bit extra operational budget there to help them do some regular communicating with the community, whatever means they come up with that they find most effective. Please, and not just a quick blast for a month. We want to see it ongoing, regular basis, until everyone knows or should know that cats are not to be at large. And then, of course, the second thing is compliance. Now, compliance is an interesting thing because cats can be caught with cat traps and a tin of nice sardines inside quite easily. And the cat traps come from Moore, council's animal management organisation that supplies the services at quite a lot of money. And of course, it's required, isn't it? So we would like those cat traps to perhaps be, the hire of them is country $50 and then $10 a week, I think, for each week that you have it. So for most of it, that's not too onerous, but for some people, that is onerous. So can we look, please, for maybe special rates for pensioners so that it's easier to hire a cat trap and keep it for a couple of weeks to get that particularly slippery cat. And also some kind of compliance so that when Moore has a cat delivered in a cat trap, can that information please go back to councillor's compliance department so that it's known in council that there has been a cat caught at large, and maybe repeat offenders can eventually get fined. So also it would be nice to think that maybe in a year or two down the track, if someone's kitty gets caught by a neighbour or someone in the next street and delivered to Moore, that the system is that Moore automatically tell council, give them the details as per microchip, and do not tell the person who owns it who delivered it. Do not report to Moore, not to report to the owner who delivered their cat, which evidently sometimes happens. So that's all we want to say now. Please, not a huge amount of money, just empower your internal organisations, maybe throw a bit more money around there, and let's get those cats where they're meant to be, at home, where they're loved. And thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions councillors. Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Christine. Do you perceive if this doesn't happen, that this will have an impact on the success of this new policy? I mean, I guess we would probably do our own, but you're asking for extra.
Well, I feel at the moment the people who know about the cat curfew are those who are concerned about wildlife. Yes, most people who are anxious about cats doing the damage they do in the community, in the local area, know about it. I think a lot of cat owners don't. I think it's not widely publicised. I haven't seen any articles in the local paper. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any posters in the street with bad-looking cats being trapped behind bars or something. No, I think there needs to be an awareness raising, definitely awareness raising. And I know our communications department's good at that, so I'd like to see it happen with some more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Tarangao tomorrow. Jenny. Is Jenny here? Hi, welcome, Jenny.
Thank you for providing this opportunity to present to Council. I'm Jenny Merkus. I'm a member of the Tarangao Tomorrow group, which developed the community plan for the Tarangao ward in 2021. Significant aspects of the current plan have been implemented and other projects are ongoing. As it was a 5-year plan, it is now time to review and vitalise it. A commitment to collaborate with communities to develop and deliver local area community plans is included in the current council plan. To ensure that local area planning is successful, Council is urged to contribute skill-based assistance to ensure a consistent approach across Council, the Shire I mean, and appropriate funding to enable participatory process. I've done some benchmarking and I think the R group would need 20,000 to review and develop a new Tarangao Tomorrow community plan. This amount is required to undertake extensive community consultation and research, publication and of the final report. When the last plan was produced, some of this work was done by professional firms pro bono, but this facility is no longer available to us. So without funds, we won't be able to do the plan. Our group can contribute planning and administrative tasks. And we've got a skill group of 6 people, all of whom are retired and having a good time in the community and don't want to spend all their time planning for the community. Tarangao Tomorrow should be able to contribute 4,000 as a grant from the Community Bank, Malden and District. And we are seeking the balance of 16,000 from Council. The Malden community is well established and ready to move forward. Preliminary work has been undertaken by the group, including a review of the current plan and a gap analysis. However, without council funding, further work would not be possible. It is our goal to apply a wellbeing economy framework to our planning. So we want to go a bit deeper than just looking at infrastructure. A revised community plan would enable development of a workable approach to roll out community plans to other areas, should council wish this. We look forward to working with council to develop a new plan which will contribute to the implementation of council's other strategies and plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions for Jenny and Tarangao tomorrow? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Jenny. In terms of the makeup of your group, you've mentioned that there are 6 members and they're all retired. Do you have younger members as well?
Yes, we've just joined 2 other younger members. And those younger members are particularly concerned about childcare in our community. So they're joining our group. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do need younger members.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Mahira, Castlemaine Community House. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today to advocate for the expansion and extension of our youth programs that have not only succeeded, but that have exceeded every expectation we set. Last year, we had a pilot program funded through Vic Health to work with year 10s who were attending school less than 30% of the time. They were spending a lot more time in our garden, participating in antisocial behavior during the day than being at school. These were also students who were at risk of falling through the cracks at CSC. With the changes in the flow program and teachers being overwhelmed with the increase of school refusal and with very little options of alternative education to offer. We ran a hospitality-based program where students got to run their own cafe and an art exhibition where they produced and sold their own work, validating their hard work and creativity. Through our re-engagement program, we achieved almost 100% attendance, which was a shock to the school and their families. But the outcomes and impact that we've seen go way beyond attendance. We've seen young people take the brave step of seeking mental health support. We've seen reductions in drug and alcohol use. We've watched them hold each other accountable, support one another, and rebuild a sense of belonging. But most importantly, we've actually seen them choose to go back to school. Some of them have even stepped into more challenging streams at school, something that seemed unattainable 6 months prior. I still walk down the street and get high fives from parents who are in disbelief to see their child feel so motivated to come to a learning environment, to stretch themselves, to explore pathways and options for their future. At Community House, we stepped into this gap because there's a lack of dedicated youth services in our shire, especially for young people who are disengaged with school and community support. In a small town, it can be very hard as a young person to shift the community perception about you, which very much influences how you see yourself. After our hospitality program, I was moved by the Castlemaine Mail's choice to put a photo of our teens on the front cover with the headline, "Teens, a Town Asset." The young people took photos of that, shared it with their families, have it on their walls as something that they can be really proud of. It shows that if you give them safe and welcoming spaces with trusted adults who will listen, who will encourage them to explore their interests, believe in their strengths and aspirations, they can feel part of a wider community and that they have something to offer. We've seen them have better relationships with their parents. A lot of young people have moved on to work placements. And again, consider Community House a safe space that they can come to and people who understand them there, and build relationships with other community members who use our space. The additional funding, we can build on that momentum and success. We can extend our youth project officers' wages to run additional school programs for year 8s and year 10s. Just quickly, our program complements the youth activities that council runs, like Mondo Lounge, and it targets other young people who are disengaged from that program and directly aligns with the recent youth strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahira. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Anir.
Thanks, Mayor. Hey, Mahira. So with your pilot program that ran last year, what was the age range of your young people?
So that was specifically year 10, so that was about 15 to 16.
And that was Vic Health funded?
Yeah.
And there's no additional funding to continue the program, even though it was very successful?
Yeah, so through a partnership with CSC, we were able to find some funding to continue to actually turn the program into a certificate too, to keep those students engaged. And now what we're seeing is that new year 8s, year 9s, and year 10s who are in that same position, falling through the cracks and have no other option. So what we'd be able to do with this is continue to build on that, to actually expand it, to offer it to new students and younger students. We know that year 8s and 9s are in a really clear transition period that if they don't get that support, that sets them up for disengagement in the future. But yeah, there's no further funding from Big Health for that.
Councillor Maddock.
So the year 10 students will continue having access to the Certificate 2 course. Will year 10s this year have access to that too, or is it
No,
limited to that cohort?
it was only for that cohort. And what we're finding actually is that when schools try to refer students who are disengaged into the Certificate 2, the students aren't quite ready for that level of structure. So having a stepping stone program like what we did with this cohort means that now they can commit to something like a Certificate 2, whereas 6 months before, if they hadn't been to the Dufay program, they wouldn't really have been able to sit and concentrate for that long, if that makes sense. So yeah, at the moment, without any additional funding, we're limited to being able to offer this to anyone else.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Mahira. I'm curious as to, I guess, the question of sustainability. So you're coming to council with a request for funding for the next financial year. How do you see that translating into an ongoing sustainable program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think by leveraging and collaborating with the school and being able to demonstrate the need for alternative education programs and building the evidence and to be able to show the impacts, the goal is to then advocate to the Department of Education to be able to support programs like this as part of the curriculum. For example, what we've been able to do, we're turning our initial pilot into a Certificate 2 for this group. That was through our strong partnership with CSC and them taking the outcomes to the Department of Education to say, this is what we need investment in. So we're hoping to continue to build on those outcomes and engaging other cohorts and younger cohorts too.
Thank you, Mahira. Thank you. Is Jeremy here? Jeremy, welcome.
Hello, thank you all for your time. My name is Jeremy Furs. I'm the co-owner of the Bridge Hotel and creator of Town Folk Festival, which takes place each November. Music festival can bring many benefits to a regional community, including cultural and social. Today, I'm talking specifically about the economic impact of Town Folk. As a background, I have 20 plus years experience in the music industry across many roles. I ran Town Folk at a capacity of 500 for 3 years before taking a big leap in 2024 and expanding to 4,000. I'm the sole owner of the event and it's my house on the line every year when we go on sale. The past 2 years at increased capacity of 4,000 were very similar. So we conducted post-event surveys both years and we now have some wonderful data to look at. Across the 2 years, we've averaged 4,084 people on site, including artists, staff, contractors and attendees. Of those, 2,741 were visitors to Mount Alexander Shire. And of those visitors, over 2,000 people stayed at least one night. The total visitor spend in the Shire over the festival weekend has averaged $944,144. Destination Central Victoria tell me that Town Folk is the single biggest non-public holiday weekend with respect to debit and credit card spend in this region. On top of the spend at hospitality, accommodation, retail and Buddha House, there are several direct fundraising initiatives associated with Town Folk, which have generated over 9,000 for Castlemaine Fringe, 4,000 for Campbell's Creek Rec Reserve and 7,600 for Nalderun. The total cost of running Town Folk is $570,000, which is made up of $260,000 in artist fees, $135,000 in wages, production and operations, $40,000 in marketing, and another $40,000 in admin, insurance and permits. All levels of government have supported the event. The grant funding from Mount Alexander Shire has totaled $9,000 so far, and I'm extremely grateful for that money. This year, Visit Victoria is kicking in $25,000 to put towards a Friday night program of free pop-up shows around town in order to encourage visitors to stay 2 nights. Last year, the net result of Town Folk was a $30,000 loss. In 2024, with more funding behind it, it ran at a $30,000 profit. So we've effectively landed at break even after 2 years at this scale. I've not been paid a salary in that time. However, my assessment of the festival and its current position is extremely positive. The brand is developing much as I'd hoped and planned, which is evident through growing interest from media, sponsors, artists wanting to perform, subscribers to mailing lists, followers on social media, etc. In terms of building the brand, I'm just not quite there yet. So I'm here requesting a $20,000 allocation from this year's budget to spend on marketing Townfolk 2026 to visitors from Melbourne and other parts of Victoria. As demonstrated, those visitors will turn up and return that money to this community by a multiple of around 40. The marketing spend would include a publicist, street posters, radio ads, and digital ads. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Councillors, yeah, Councillor Driscoll.
Oh, Jeremy, that $9,000 that council got, is that over a number of years, or is that like a one-off?
That's over 5 years from event grants.
Okay, so you put an event grant in, so $9,000.
So there's been 3,000 twice and a few 1,000 ones.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Walker.
Jeremy, certainly I congratulate you on Townfolk Festival. It's a great success, and you've given the statistics of the number of people that come that weekend. What I'm wondering, if more turn up, what's the capacity of the Shire to accommodate them?
So I'm not looking to grow Townfolk in 2026 or 2027. I see that this festival has the potential to grow, but I like to do growth slowly. We did 3 years of small. We've reached 2 years of big, and it could go very big for this town. It's right next to the gardens, which there's obviously a big space there to use. But I know there's accommodation limitations and services limitations. So I'm not trying to grow it. I'm trying to just make it sustainable at the current size.
Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's 25K then from Visit Victoria. That's aimed at encouraging multi-night stay. Is that correct?
That's right.
So are you looking at the same overall attendance but spread differently?
Well, it's just a single day event on a Saturday. So a lot of people do come up just for that one night. We haven't programmed anything previously on the Friday. So that's the idea with that money.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks very much. Is Terry here from Harcourt Valley Landcare? G'day, Terry. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Willis. I'm the president of Harcourt Valley Landcare. Harcourt Valley Landcare seeks funding from the budget to continue our ongoing commitment for the council to maintain safeguard wildlife corridors and the biodiversity of Harcourt Valley Landcare and Mount Alexander Shire. Harcourt Valley Landcare has long seen biodiversity as an asset and a draw card for residents and visitors of our beautiful Harcourt Valley. Residents want to feel a connection to the surrounding flora and fauna. In 2022, we became very concerned about biodiversity loss in the Plan Harcourt document. We were shocked to discover that no town-wide biodiversity audit was done. We provided evidence to the Victorian Planning Panel that town-wide strategic biodiversity audit was needed. We were successful, and Harcourt became the first regional town in Victoria to have a town-wide biodiversity audit. That was a huge win for biodiversity of Harcourt Valley. As a Landcare group, we recognise a strong biodiversity also maintains and builds economic growth and well-being. The OECD states that economic growth is strongly linked to biodiversity, with over half of the world's GDP, that's $44 trillion, depending on nature. Failure to protect biodiversity risks significant economic losses, estimated at $5 trillion annually by 2030 from collapsing ecosystem. In our submission, we made a number of recommendations about how to increase the greater biodiversity in Harcourt Valley. In the Stage 2 biodiversity audit, it stated that the council should adequately inform residents of their obligations in relation to overlays and follow up with compliance and enforcement. So if nature is such a large part of economic growth, why does Mount Alexander Shire not have a biodiversity officer or a separate compliance officer to support economic growth? The Bingham's Road Floral Reserve, which is about 5 hectares, which is south of Harcourt Leisure Centre, is the most biodiverse part of Harcourt Valley. At present, it doesn't have one land manager. It has multiple agencies on site. We recommend that Mount Alexander Shire take the responsibility of this precious piece of Harcourt for future generations. Harcourt fires devastated this reserve and many of the wildlife corridors that allowed life to move through the landscape. Now more than ever, we need Mount Alexander Shire to take the lead. Another one of our submissions was that with the new Victorian Miniature Railway, the VMR, starting up in Harcourt and running, that it's also attracting economic growth, that we propose a walking trail be built through the bushland along Barkers Creek from the Tollgate Bridge, which is opposite the CFA, to the picnic ground, which is opposite the VMR. And that would allow visitors to walk from the township to the VMR without being on the road. And also it would allow locals to walk along that track, which would also link up to future housing development that will happen on Eagles Road.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks very much, Terry. Question about timing.
Yep.
In terms of, are there any critical factors as to why this needs to be funded in the next financial year, or are some of these actions able to be achieved over future years?
So a lot of these points in this submission were in a submission that we made last year as well. Look, if you just have to look at what's going around in the world at present, and I think that biodiversity needs to take front and centre as well as the environment, and yeah.
Councillor Cordy.
So, Terry, thanks for your submission. What's your ask? What funds are you looking for?
Well, look, I haven't got a particular figure on it, but it's around employing a biodiversity officer for the Shire and a compliance officer, and that could be part-time, it could be full-time. The land management part, which would be just the council taking on a greater role in that area, I don't see that would fit into Matt McEachran's, where he works. And yeah, the walking path from Tollgate Bridge, I haven't done an estimate or got anyone to cost that. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Terry. Shelley. Welcome, Shelley.
Time to see, or that's okay. I can do. I just thought I'll keep an eye. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today and for taking the time to consider our submission. So the Ravens Theatre Company is directly aligned with Mount Alexander Shire Council Wellbeing Plan for 2025 to 2029, particularly in its goals around social connection, community participation and strengthening local organisations through community-led creative activity. Quite simply, there is currently no professional theatre company based in this town. There is no theatre at all in the 2026 Castlemaine State Festival. For a town with such a strong reputation for arts and culture, that absence is really striking, and we are working to change that. Our first production for 2026 will be The Seagull in June this year at the Fee Broadway. We're already demonstrating that there's a strong appetite for this work in our community. Since launching our company publicly on Feb 5, we have grown to 600 followers on social media, locals, and 350 EDM subscribers. And this kind of response in such a short time shows that this company is really resonating with the town and that people want high quality theatre here in Castlemaine. We're also seeing incredibly strong community buy-in. People have come forward to volunteer their skills in photography, set design, marketing, social media, graphic design, website development, governance and fundraising. Our fundraising committee includes respected local figures such as Fee Broadway and Val Victor Gordon, who are helping guide our donor strategy and deepen our connection to the community. We have broad external support. We have letters of support, which you all have from both federal and state government representatives, Castlemaine State Festival, and between us, we bring decades of experience both in theatre making, arts leadership, governance, and business. That matters because Ravens is not just artistically ambitious, it's also built on incredibly strong foundations. We are focused on establishing a sustainable organisation with good governance, sound financial thinking, strong partnerships, and the right business structures to ensure this work can continue for many years to come. We have also a multi-stream fundraising plan, so we are trying to be very diverse in our funding streams. Importantly, we are creating meaningful pathways for local young people with already secured funding. We are partnering with Castlemaine Secondary College to bring students to a matinee performance with a Q&A at no cost to the school. So this opportunity would otherwise be completely out of reach for these students. And for many of them, it will be their first experience or one of the very few of live theatre in their own town professionally performed. And some of these students have been picked to work in a mentoring program that we're offering as well. So across our productions, we have a mix of professional and amateur actors, many who leave this town to work and without this funding wouldn't be able to work in our town at all. And our first production, for Waiting for Godot, has Tim Rogers in the cast, which will be great for profile. Yeah, you'll have to ask me questions because I didn't get to the... Still not on. There we go. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Shelley. And yeah, any questions, councillors?
I'm curious what your concluding
Yeah,
those 2 sentences were.
That was my question as well. If you had 30 seconds, what else would you say?
I would say without this funding, we will still continue because this has been born out of an absolute need within us to be performing and to be creating meaningful pathways for young people to, like I had, like others in the cast have had, in the group have had, to actually perform and to gain these kind of skills where there's a skills gap in the town in that way. And whilst we will still do it, the risks are we will burn out. The risks are that we will have a lower standard because we won't be able to pay the good actors. We won't be able to pay for good graphic design and, you know, just a good set design and, you know, volunteers, whilst they're super keen right now, being able to really hold that momentum for 5, 10, 15 years, I think we'll struggle.
Thanks, Shelley. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Shelley. Just is your request for a startup or are you looking at ongoing?
If you have a look at the submission, it's what I've requested is for the next financial year, which is what I understood the submission to be. And what we're looking at is 2 productions in the next financial year and 2 masterclasses. Yeah. My question is this just for 1 year or should we be anticipating requests in future years similarly? I mean, I think it's in the council's best interest to have a professional theatre company doing really well. You know, my background is I have relationships with government, you know, working in create because that's my background, as you would know from my bio. And I think, you know, we've seen interest from Melbourne Theatre Company. So there's a real opportunity for this to become a really good news story in so many different ways. And so, yes, I would love to see that there's an alignment between council and the Ravens Theatre Company in the future.
Thank you, Shelley. Any further questions? Thanks, Shelley. Dade, CSC School Council. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, support staff. I am here as Dade Kelly, that's me, to talk for the car situation in front of the CSC, Castlemaine Secondary College. I haven't got much to add to the submission that I actually have already made, but I'm just here to reinforce the need to get some money from council so that we can kickstart the process of getting something done out in front of the school. So we're talking about the area in front of the school that you come down the steps and end on a road with dirt on either side. Anyone of you who has kids at the school will know what it's like there when children are dropped off and picked up. It's quite chaotic and very unsafe. It's an area that's used by obviously hundreds of parents daily, by delivery trucks, by adults coming by at different times. And the safety aspects are kind of self-evident in a rule, in a word. There's very little signage. The parking area is undefined. The actual separation between cars and pedestrians is virtually non-existent. There's a very dangerous turning circle, and basically kids get dropped off in the dirt. And if it's raining, of course, it's in the mud. I've actually arrived there a few times and had kids crying because they've slipped over in the mud there. It's not great. So what we'd really like is a bit of money from council to do whatever needs to be done. It's council's land, obviously. We need to do data collection, analysis, assessment. We need some plans for what needs to happen out the front of the school to actually make this a safe and viable place to drop your kids. And as well, of course, it's about the entry experience to that school for all the people that there's hundreds of people, hundreds of parents that arrive at the school. We've got a nice set of stairs, but not much else in the way of welcoming infrastructure to bring people, funnel people into the school, and also no connection to anything else in the broader scheme of connections to walking paths or cycling paths. There's not much to encourage kids to arrive in other ways if they can't arrive safely. So it's obviously safety first, but we identified it in a big master plan that we did last year that we need to get. That's one of the many things that we'd like to accomplish. So obviously don't need a reminding that the school is a fairly major cultural and institutional part of the Shire. And I think this is an opportunity not just to make it safer there and to minimise risk, but also just to enhance the school environment and the connection of the town to the school. That's about it, really.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Yeah, Councillor.
David, have you spoken to the school and or the education department for these needs at all?
Unfortunately, it's all council land, and we really need some council involvement. But obviously, the school is very keen to accomplish something out the front there. Yes.
Thank you,
Councillor Maddock.
I'm trying to recall the master plan. Is that in the master plan for the school?
It is in the master plan, indeed.
Right. And two parts question: Would you be willing to stand with me through a drop off or pick up, so that I can see some of this and any other councillors?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can
Thank you. I didn't put.
Can you send me a text or email? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Dade. I beg your pardon, Councillor Anea.
Hey, Dade. Thanks for that. I think you also put in a similar submission last year as president of the school council, didn't
Correct.
you? So
Yep.
there was school support, obviously, for this request. I think another thing that might help with this, I know the school's currently doing a bus audit. They've noticed that bus numbers are dropping off and more people are driving their kids to school. I'm obviously also a CSC parent, so I know what you're talking about. I feel as though, what is your sense from the young people themselves? Do you know what kids think about it? I think this is another element that would be helpful.
Well, I think they're not particularly happy to be dropped in the mud, basically, when they arrive on a wet day, or even on a normal day. Just to walk through the dust is not particularly enlightening. Crossing the road's a bit risky. So I obviously can't tell you what the appreciation of most of the kids is.
It may be something worth putting to the Student Representative Council.
That's
We'd
true.
love to hear from them.
That's true. I've got 26 hours left as the council president, so I can put it in tomorrow.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Next is Isabella, Norwood Hill Rec Reserve. Welcome, Isabella.
Hi there. My name is Isabella Shaw, and I'm here to speak to my request for the Council to fund Stage 4 of the Master Plan for Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve in South Castlemaine. Councillors voted to adopt the report into the Landscape Concept Plan for Norwood Hill Reserve back in September 2021. The report includes a landscaping concept design for Stage 4 proposed by Polland Landscape Architects. I understand local residents Uncle Rick Nelson and Vic Say were also heavily involved in this. Stage 4 focuses on developing the linkage between the council-managed playground area and the DECA-managed Jones Gully Natural Bush area. About 60 people and households in the area are connected through a Signal group chat called Hello Neighbours. About 25 of us met recently at the reserve's playground area. There is a lot of shared passion for improving and maintaining our green spaces, the local ecology, and strengthening South Castlemaine's sense of community. Funding Stage 4 would serve to bring all this to life. Currently, the green space has just one very old bench to sit on, and no one does. Steep rises and falls that are impossible for wheelchairs or mobility walkers to navigate, and a weed and rubbish infested Jones Gully. The gully can't cope with the amount of stormwater runoff from the Norwood Hill residential area up in Eddy Street, so it overflows to make large sections very boggy and impassable in the wetter months. Stage 4 could also encompass the restoration of the ephemeral creek line in Jones Gully and build on work begun by the local community more than 30 years ago. With reed control, understory planting, the creation of small wetlands to slow water flow, and grasses, sedges and rushes along the banks, a more natural water flow could be restored. Thanks to accessible pathways, everyone could meander through this thriving native landscape, wander through Lancia Street, walk along the little path at the bottom of Sheehan Street and find themselves at the yet-to-be-built Maryborough Castlemaine Rail Trail. The water could continue to flow under the highway before joining Campbell's Creek to enhance the health of the creek itself, support platypus life and all the great ongoing restoration work of the Friends of Campbell's Creek. South Castlemaine has one of the lowest socio-economic communities within the Shire, and yet it has a glaring lack of curated public open spaces. Funding Stage 4 would bring enormous benefits to residents and serve to link up and enhance other important community projects and precious green spaces and waterways nearby. To quote from the Council's 25 to 29 plan, working together for a healthy, connected Shire, in Mount Alexander Shire, we are redefining the purpose of the economy to serve the well-being of people, place and the environment. A well-being economy prioritises community health, fulfilment and resilience, supporting an economy where people, nature and culture thrive together, now and for future generations. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Isabella. Questions, councillors? Thanks, Councillor Anea.
I would like to maybe ask a clarifying question from one of our directors, please. Sorry,
Sure.
Michael. I was around for some of this, well, the first 3 stages of this project, and I remember Stage 4. Given that it's been, an amount of time since that master plan was done, do you feel that we would be able to proceed with what is already in the plan, or we need to do something more?
We would need to go back and relook at what those original plans were. And the master plan sets out a broad strategic direction, but doesn't always set out the individual components in every activity. So there would still need to be further consultation, even if we finished Stage 3 yesterday and we're starting Stage 4 today. So further consultation would be required to clarify what was to be undertaken in that in the curriculum. And that's something that I think everybody was supportive of and is in agreement with. There's not a plan that's ready on the shelf to implement.
has been costed, and it needs that consultation as you go forward. Yep.
Any other questions? Councillor Maddock.
Yeah, I'm trying to clarify this. So I'm just looking at the plan, and you were mentioning about the treatments along the Dry Creek bed.
The what, sorry?
The treatments, the plantings.
Yeah.
Pathways
Yeah.
on the creek bed.
Yeah.
Are they part of the state?
Not the
or are
original
they
pollen
outside of
plans, no.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Isabella. Thanks very much. And Edwina, Castlemaine Goldfields Football Club, welcome.
I'm Edwina Reid, Secretary of the Castlemaine Goldfields Football Club. I am here today to request an allocation for an upgraded irrigation system at Chewton Soldiers Memorial Park. Firstly, I would like to thank the council for their commitment to supporting the growth and ongoing needs of the soccer club in their investigation at new facilities at Wesley Hill. In the meantime, as we know, these facilities may be some time away, and that is a very difficult economic environment to gain large external grants. Our field at Chewton is in very poor condition, and one of the contributors to this condition, apart from the overuse from a very large membership, is the state of the irrigation system. Every autumn, council resows the grass with the winter grass. It's just been done this week. We're very grateful for the rain today, but the success of that new grass is dependent on the irrigation system functioning properly, and at the moment it just doesn't work at its full capacity. There's sections that it doesn't reach, the pressure is poor, sometimes it just fails, so we often don't start the season with a well-established base of grass, and with the extremely high usage, I know we've used this statistic a lot, but Football Victoria has assured us that we are the largest club in Victoria that operates with a single senior pitch. And they recommend that we need 3 senior pitches. So obviously we have all of our 25 teams training at Chewton. We have 200 4 to 9-year-olds there every Friday night. We have every Saturday and every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. pretty much we have teams playing at Chewton. So it's extremely well used. In addition, it's also very well used by the public as, you know, our facility, our green space in Chewton. We're an entirely volunteer-run club, and one of the consequences of the poor condition of the pitch is the additional workload on volunteers. We have to cancel training, we have to cancel matches, and we do try and relocate our training. We know everyone is always desperate to play and desperate to train, but it's a massive job with 24 hours notice after a rain event to relocate 25 different teams into, you know, 4 or 5 different locations across the Shire. Most of our volunteers are actually full-time, are in full-time paid employment as well. Yeah, so that is one of the consequences, as well as just having to cancel matches entirely. Another thing that we had to do last year, and we're very grateful to the Wesley Hill committee for having us, but we did relocate some matches towards the end of the season, quite a lot of matches, to the Doug Powell Reserve. Sorry, and it's an 8-hour job to mark a soccer pitch and erect goals. Thanks.
Thanks, Edwina. Questions from councillors? Councillor Walker.
Thanks, Edwina. Yes, I've noticed there are times when you've had to relocate. I've got 2 questions. One is, do you have any idea, say in the last 12 months, how many matches you could not hold at Memorial Park that you wanted to? And the second question, if I heard you right, you said the problem of heavy rain. How would new irrigation resolve that?
So the first, sorry, I don't have the actual statistics. It was probably about 4 or 5 weekends where we had to move matches or cancel matches or reschedule them to midweek last year. The issue with the grass and the heavy rain is that you need to have, I'm not an expert, but this is my understanding, you need to have a good grass cover over the whole year to stop compaction of the ground. So that contributes even in the summer when we have the summer grass, when it doesn't grow well and there's areas that are exposed, it leads to further compaction on top of the compaction that is obviously caused by overuse because we don't have enough space. And then the same for the grass not establishing in the winter, the areas that are exposed tend to erode further and then you get puddles and undulations. I don't know if you see the ground, but it's quite undulated, and then those obviously it doesn't drain. Also, when the roots don't establish, establishment assists water draining when it rains. So when you don't get good root establishment, it's not deep enough. So if when you get a shallow root establishment, and then that contributes to further deterioration of the ground when you do have a heavy rain event.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Edwina. I guess there's a question to follow on from Phil's, and I'm happy to take it on notice if you can follow up with us, which is how many matches were postponed, but also directly due to not having the irrigation. So it's if they can all be attributed to that, or a sort of estimate. And I'm not expecting answers.
Well, they're all because of flooding of the pitch. That when we have to not have matches. Yeah.
So it's all of them.
All of the games that were relocated. I don't know top of my head, but all of them are relocated because of the flooding of the pitch. And we also are very cautious with the training, and we try to relocate to not further contribute to damage to the pitch. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Edwina. Thanks very much. All right, so that concludes our first tranche of submissions. Thank you, submitters. So welcome to the second batch. Yes. Okay, so welcome everyone. The purpose of this meeting is to hear members of the public speak on their 2026-27 budget submissions. Only those who have pre-registered to speak at this meeting will be able to speak to their submission. There will be no suspension of standing orders, therefore other members of the public will not be able to ask questions. Each speaker in addressing the council, one, will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, and we have a little timer. 2, shall extend due courtesy and respect to the council and the processes under which it operates. 3, shall take direction from myself as chair of the meeting whenever I call upon a speaker to do so. 4, shall not attempt to enter into discussion or debate with council. However, councillors may ask questions of clarification of the speaker. Please note that councillors may ask questions if required to clarify or understand the detail of your submission. Questions may not be required for all submissions, and the absence of any questions from councillors is not an indication of the level of interest. So it's a pleasure to ask Lee Mead from Tarrangower Cactus Control Group to come forward. Welcome, Lee.
Hi. Lee Mead, representing the Tarrangower Cactus Control Group Committee. Thanks for the opportunity to provide input into the budget. Within the Tarrangower ward, reinfestations from decades-old core infestations of wilt cactus are constant and overwhelming. Over the past 20 years, while relentlessly trying to control this weed, our volunteers have watched the density and spread of infestations increase. And this is because not all infestations are treated. Encouraging all landowners to take action to manage their infestations has proved impossible for our volunteer group. The Victorian Government has recently announced that they will begin an extension and compliance program within our Tarrangower ward, focusing on properties with core wilt cactus infestations. AgVic staff will be working with these specific properties, providing individual management plans and control advice. It's now critical that both local government and community groups maintain an active role in supporting this extension program to ensure it continues well into the future, and together we achieve long-term sustainable control of wild cactus. Our group will continue our role of supporting the willing landowners with equipment loans and on-ground demonstrations and assistance. We believe the important role for local government is effective information distribution and support to landowners, particularly the absentees, new ratepayers to the area and reticent landowners. We propose some immediate objectives for the council officers are targeted distribution of the wild cactus control information brochure by post to absentee and non-compliant landowners. We acknowledge that this brochure has now been uploaded to the Mount Alexander website. However, we strongly believe that not all landowners use this resource, and a hard copy of such vital information is often a more effective means of communication. Also, providing support to absentee landowners and new ratepayers that we have no contact with, and providing assistance to landowners who need guidance from an authority. Over the years, our group has experienced many situations where landowners are only willing to listen to people within official roles. To achieve this important role, we believe additional staff resources are absolutely necessary to ensure ongoing effective distribution of vital weed control information, and to ensure support for those absentees, new ratepayers and reticent landowners, and to ensure support for our local laws officers. A lack of funding for appropriate staff resources will see our shire experiencing a decrease in awareness and knowledge about wild cactus, unfair repeated reinfestations and endless additional work and costs for our responsible landowners, additional costs and chemical use for the shire to control the constant reinfestations along roadsides, ongoing ignorance of weed responsibilities by landowners into the future, more dense wild cactus infestations and increased spread to other wards and regions, and degradation to our natural environment and reduction of native biodiversity. We very much value this financial support and partnership already established with Council, and we always welcome the opportunity to meet with councillors. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lee. Questions from councillors? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Lee, and congratulations again to the group on the effectiveness of your advocacy to AgVic. Fantastic news on that additional resource. Couple of things. Your request is for, I understand part of your request is for a full-time biodiversity officer. Two parts of the question are why a full-time officer, and also on the other hand, timing and how critical and why does it matter that that's in the 26-27 budget?
I think the amount of work that can be contributed to our natural environment via biodiversity officer is obvious, even from the a previous speaker that we've just heard, that there's a lot of us believe that there's not enough work done for our natural environment and biodiversity. And I think there'd be plenty of work for a full-time biodiversity officer, and including rewriting the biodiversity plan. I assume that hasn't been done. With respect, we've been asking for, this similar work contribution from the Shire for many years, and each year goes by without not a lot ever being contributed. And our conclusion is that there's just not enough staff to do all the things that need to be done. Second part of the question about timing. I think this year with the AgVic starting extension program work, it's really important that there be support in raising the awareness about the significant negative threats of this noxious weed from all of us, from local government and and our community. It's, you know, it's perfect timing to ramp up the wheel cactus issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thank you, Lee. I invite Alex Riches to come forward, please. Welcome.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. I am here to advocate for the inclusion of the Community Car Care Workshop series in this year's budget. Community Car Care is a trans-led initiative reshaping how people connect to their cars and community. The program aligns perfectly with Council's wellbeing economies goals by providing access to practical, transferable skills and peer learning. As one participant shared, it fills a unique gap in community education by making automotive knowledge accessible, inclusive, and empowering. As many of us know, everyone living in the region, car maintenance and ownership isn't always optional, it's often essential. Yet the automotive industry is often exclusionary of women, people of colour, those living with disabilities, and the LGBTQI+ communities. Demand for these workshops is already really strong. In just the 7 days of publishing an expression of interest survey on social media, we received 23 responses, over 8,000 views, and 40 shares. This is a clear signal, and all of those came from within Castlemaine and surrounds. It's a clear signal that our community is asking in support for in terms of personal safety and financial independence. One respondent shared, Castlemaine has a shortage of mechanics and it's really easy to get scammed. I paid $350 for something that wasn't even broken. The price disparity is something that the Australian media has reported on, and it has been noted that gendered pricing disappears as soon as a femme-presenting person indicates that they know the market price. Knowledge is power and it's also cost-effective. Other respondents explained that they've had to endure unprofessional interactions with mechanics. One said, I've had very negative experiences in town with condescending and rudeness from car mechanics, and I myself have personally experienced inappropriate conduct by a local mechanic. Respondents also spoke to the positive impacts that this program could have. One community member said, this would be such a big help to us, knowing our cars are being properly looked after without fear of being taken advantage of. The requested funding would ensure that the program is accessible, either by removing or reducing financial barriers for participants, and also documentation that extends the impact beyond the workshops themselves. There is strong support from local community groups to deliver this initiative. I've spoken with Castlemaine Community House about hosting the workshops. I've engaged with Thorn Harbour Country and Castlemaine Surrounds Women's Shed about community partnership and support. Bringing community car care to Mount Alexander Shire is a meaningful step to build a robust and diverse wellbeing economy. It will build community resilience, increase safety, skills sharing, relieve financial pressure, and empower people across the Shire. Thank you so much for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Questions from councillors? It seems your submission is so complete and thorough that we have no questions for you, Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kez, Carolee, Mount Alexander Sustainability Group, welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. And first up, I don't envy the role that you have here with trying to make your way through all of these. It's just been amazing. So I'm here representing MAS, Mount Alexander Sustainability Group, with our project Shaping the Future. 2026 marks 20 years of community-led sustainability in our Shire by Mount Alexander Sustainability Group. For 2 decades, our community hasn't waited for change, we've actively created it. And now we're at an important moment. Council has achieved 0 net emissions for its operations, which is an incredible milestone. The opportunity in front of us is how we will bring the whole community along for what comes next. MASC has been part of that journey from the beginning. We've supported households to adopt solar and energy efficiency, helped reduce waste through initiatives like the Repair Cafe, and built practical skills and awareness across the community. What we've learned is simple. When people are supported locally, they take meaningful action. This proposal is about building on that momentum. It's not just a celebration of 20 years, it's a strategic investment in the next decade of climate action and sustainability in our Shire. We will bring together past, current and new community members to co-design our 2027 to 2030 strategic plan, ensuring it reflects the needs, energy and ideas of the whole community. Alongside this, we'll deliver a series of small community-led sustainability initiatives through a micro-grants program and local events aligned with the National Sustainable Living Festival. What this means is that Council's investment doesn't just fund one project, it activates many. Schools, community groups, businesses and residents all contributing to practical local climate action. The project directly supports Council's climate change strategy by strengthening community capacity, participation and resilience. It also delivers on the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan by building social connection, inclusion and a sense of shared purpose. Importantly, it amplifies Council's leadership, turning your zero net emissions achievement into a whole of community movement. We're seeking funds to deliver this project alongside significant in-kind contributions from MASG and our partners. MASG has no core funding. We are entirely dependent on our membership fees and grants simply to exist and to continue doing the essential work that we're doing. With Council support, we can use this 20-year milestone not just to reflect, but to launch the next decade of community-led climate action in Mount Alexander Shire. This is about backing a proven community partner to help deliver Council's goals at scale and with lasting impact. Thank you for your time and consideration, everyone.
Thank you, Kez. Thank you very much. Questions, councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Kirralie, how much funds are you requesting?
43,470.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, councillors? Okay, Kez, that's very clear. Oh, hang on, Councillor Maddock.
I think the climate change strategy is a big one for me, and I'm well aware that a lot of it relies on work in the community. Is the sustainability group the best organisation to carry the bulk of this work forwards, in your opinion, do you think?
I think so. I mean, even just sitting here listening to these submissions, and I can see all the partners that we work with, a lot of what drives our mission is collaboration. Even without funding, we started up the Community Climate Collective last year because we knew that there needed to be more cohesion and collaboration about what's happening in our Shire around climate action, sustainability, environmentalism, regenerative action. There's a lot of people who are out there on their own little wheel, and what we're really keen to do is to be a supportive space for everyone and to be looking at how we can be really working together well. So as part of this project is having that small grants in there. So that would be supporting all the different community groups and also those groups who might be so small that they don't feel that they can apply for like an FRRR or something like that. But we can say, here's $1,000, go do something awesome, school. Or so it's around being able to lead in that relational space, which is absolutely everything to make things happen.
And could I clarify as well? It's a genuine question. I don't know. Who are your key partners, and what's the scale of the volunteer base or number of people you engage with?
Yep.
I'm familiar with you, but I guess I'm less familiar with it, and happy to take it on notice.
It's extensive. I mean, we do a lot of work with Castlemaine Community House, of course, Castlemaine Institute, Bendigo Sustainability Group, Bendigo City of Greater Bendigo. We're working across Loddon Mallee region at the moment in a project, so that's connecting us in with a lot of neighbourhood houses and other networks beyond the region as well. and it's really strengthening our connections with state government and but I guess, yeah, bring it back to the local, you know, we've got even just within that community climate collective, we've got volunteers who are just representing themselves as community people, the Tiny Homes on Wheels group, LMPHU, there's so many in there. I'm just trying to grab them all off. Yeah. And in terms of volunteers, it's an ever-growing and moving space because I'm finding we've got more and more new people to the area who are getting in touch and saying, right, where can I volunteer? What can I be doing? And we are planning an event for this year already just to really acknowledge our volunteers. And we're also working with La Trobe Uni Bundoora around a project to look at how we can be expanding that narrative of volunteerism as well, to be including more people from different parts of our community into volunteering.
Thanks, Kez, and that's heartening to hear your local organisation seeing new volunteers coming to you. It's great work. Thank you. Bryn Davies, really local. Welcome, Bryn.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having me along. I'm Bryn Davies with a local community group called Really Local. So our proposal is to tackle one of the tricky issues in community engagement that council faces and that many face, and that is how do we genuinely engage a cross-section of our community and give voice to the diversity of the communities in our shire. And so I'm part of a community group that's been working in this shire for around 10 years now, in the last 2 years as Really Local, and just in the last couple of years we've engaged over 1,000 people in our forums, through our radio show and through conversations and our newsletter. And what we've understood is that the only way to genuinely bring together a group of people that represents the diversity of our shire is to use what's called sortition or random selection. So to invite a large number of people who will then respond, and you select from those a cross-section that matches the demographics of the shire. We've put together a project over the last 12 months, instigated through an initial grant from Council, that is to deliver a citizens' assembly for Mount Alexander Shire. We now, and since our proposal came in, we now have all of the funding except for this component to deliver that citizens' assembly. This is the final piece of the puzzle, and what we're asking from Council is to support the mail out, which is relatively time-consuming and expensive, but relatively manageable within Council's budget. So it would be up to $15,000 to support the mail-out, to select the members to participate in the Citizens' Assembly. We now have funding to deliver the Assembly itself and to facilitate it. We have in-kind support to train both the leaders and the community members in the process. We have a local community member who has donated some of her own funds to make this happen, and this is the last piece of the puzzle to get us over the line. So in addition to the topics that a citizens' assembly like this can cover, it also builds community cohesion and connection. It brings together people who might not always meet or talk, and it helps to build the coherence of our community. It touches on a number of areas of Council's plan, in particular the healthy and connected and inclusive communities. It is enabling us as a community group to lead and sustain a local initiative. It supports intergenerational community initiatives. It helps relationships with First Nations and cold communities who would be selected for in the Assembly, and in particular helps to embed diverse voices in decision making. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryn. Questions, councillors? Councillor Walker and then, Councillor Hastwell first.
Thanks, Bryn. Just to clarify then that the ask is for 15,000 in cash, and or are you asking also for in-kind support?
We would be happy to take either.
That's very generous of you. And second part of my question, in terms of diversity and diverse voices, is your proposal to spread across obviously those demographic groups, but also different geographic demographics?
Yeah, so we're looking at a range of options for that. So one would be that we do a one citizens assembly for the whole Shire. Our later stage of the project, if we could attract money for it, would be to have multiple local groups that would feed into that. At the moment, the funding that we have to deliver would allow one for the entire Shire, and we can select for geographies. We'd have to balance that with various other demographics. We'd want to have at least some good representation for from the wards outside of Castlemaine as a minimum. We'd have to make sure that we're not then overbalancing for certain demographics against others.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Walker, then Cordy.
Thank you. And Councillor Hassel asked one question. I've got a million questions in my, it sounds fascinating. Can't ask a million questions, however, and you answered one of them for me. The other question, just to put out, is that we have a number of initiatives going on at the moment. There was the recent thing in the library, the futures mapping, there's stuff around community planning. How would you see these initiatives coming together, and how does it fit in with where the council's going and the council plan?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And when we first started designing this last year, you also had the council plan process underway. And so the approach that we have taken is to go deep rather than wide. And so you bring together a diverse group of people. So you go wide in the selection, but you choose a topic of particular interest or challenge within our community, and you spend time deliberating and debating on that to reach a community consensus that is of value to our Shire. And so that way there's sort of more extensive community engagement that happens through, whether it's the map in the library or the council plan process, is valuable in the context. But what we're doing is picking a specific topic that would to deliver on us through the Citizens Assembly.
Councillor Cordy.
Thanks for that. Thanks for your work, Bryn. You're known to us through your work on the local council elections, which was great. Fantastic events that you're in. My question's a little bit of overlap, but how would you measure your success if we gave you some money? What would be the goal for you?
Yeah, really good question. So in terms of the outputs, we want to deliver the assembly. Our aim is to do that this calendar year. The sorts of things that we would measure would be the success of the outcomes themselves. So one half of the outcomes is the recommendations that come out of the assembly and the extent to which they inform decision making, whether that's by council or other members, other levels of government or wherever. And the other side of it, which we are very keen to pay attention to, is the extent to which the people participating in it also shift their understanding of both how these processes work, but importantly, how we can work together across areas of difference. And so bringing people together who may not necessarily, as I said before, spend time in the same room together builds that community capability, which we know is so desperately needed in our Shire.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Bryn. Thanks very much. Oh, I beg your pardon, Councillor Maddock. Sorry, Bryn.
Sorry, Bryn, got one more for you. It's really clarifying question. So I assume a big cost here is in the mail, is in the physical mail out.
Yep.
So that's a broad, so you're asking people to be involved, collecting demographic information and then selecting from that. So it's basically like a hard
That's right. Yeah.
survey type thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've looked into this in quite a bit of detail. And I did ask some tricky questions of some people who've done this before about whether this can be done via email or even door knocking, a range of other options. So the most effective way to do it is a hard copy mail out still, because of the way that emails tends to get ignored or missed. The design needs to look like a royal wedding invitation, is the way it's described to us, as opposed to a Bunnings catalogue, so that people genuinely feel like they've been selected. And if you generate the interest in the project alongside it, then people feel like they've got the golden ticket and they get to put their name in. And then there's a process from that, which is where the sortition comes in. To assess the demographics of the Shire, you can over-select for particular demographics you want to have represented in the assembly, and then you choose from those who've responded to participate.
So there's no viable option that doesn't require. lots of
Not
mailing?
that I have come to. So our first preference wasn't to do a hard copy mail out, but we have been convinced that that's the most effective way to do it, and that's why we've come to council for support. Otherwise, we'd be doing it right now.
Thanks, Bryn. Any further questions? Councillor Anea.
Hey, Bryn. I just thought of this. I hadn't prepared it earlier. So with a citizens assembly, so you're trying to get a bunch of people who are, the kind of makeup of our community,
Yep.
and then put to them a topic or an issue, and then they work through that and you get outcomes, which then are fed back to council. Is that right?
So the actual topic hasn't yet been selected.
Okay.
And I think this would give council the opportunity to have some skin in the game and to influence the topic. We've got funders who have contributed the majority of the remaining money, and their interest is in community-led decision making. And some of the things that are slightly unique about our approach is that this is a genuine grassroots community initiative. Most of the time when these have been done in the past, they're sponsored by a particular decision maker, an arm of government or a local government. In this case, it's community led, and we want some of that to be retained. So we want the group itself to have some autonomy around which topics it chooses and why. And so our process brings them together first. We've got the funding to actually bring them together, do some work around kind of group formation, some capability building, and then we go into the selection of the topic, the deliberation. And that's the point at which we would engage with whomever the decision maker is, which could be council. Council can present a proposal to the group, and then we would want to lock in what that decision maker will do with the recommendations. So you want to have that committed to before you start, so that the group has some sense of where it's going. And that might just be, we will take it to our budget process or a council meeting. You probably can't go so far as say we'll implement all of the recommendations, but know that it will be listened to and taken seriously in a process.
Sorry, I'm just wrapping my head around it. How is it different from what we do? So I understand that, we're not a true representation of the community, except that we were elected into these positions. How is a citizens assembly different from having a council, and who makes, both are making decisions based on data and information?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested.
A couple of things. One is that this gives the opportunity for a really deep dive into a tricky issue that is difficult to resolve. So that the time element is what's different. And the other, with all the respect to the members around the table here, we genuinely look for the voices that don't always get heard. And I think we all know the challenges of when you put on a community engagement event, and I've done numbers of these myself. You get people who are already engaged turning up, and you hear from the people who are most engaged, and there is at least half of our shire or more who have valuable input to make, but wouldn't ever turn up to one of the events that I run or fill in a survey on Shape Mount Alexander. And I've talked to my mate who owns the irrigation shop just down the road here, because I know he's exactly the sort of person who would never show up to one of those things. And I said, would you come if you got this letter in your letterbox? And he said, I'd definitely consider it. If I was asked directly, I would consider turning up. And that's the difference that this sort of process makes. And you would only do it for something that really matters. You can't do this for everything. I mean, this is why council exists for most things. But if there's a tricky issue that we think we want to tackle as a community, then this is the way to do it.
Thank you, Bryn. Thanks very much. Is Ron Jackson here regarding Steel Street? Welcome, Ron.
I represent Chewton.
I'll make the microphone close to your mouth.
I represent Chewton to do with the planning. I'd like to submit a further submission for the 2025 to 2026 budget, requesting the council ensures enough funding available for doing drainage and road north of Henry Street and Steel Street because there's no guttering up there. I got a plan from what they're going to do. I put in 2 requests and the ladies in front put in 2 requests. They sent that out saying what they're going to do. Well, I live here. There's nothing. It's not near my place. So I just thought, is there something going to be done about what I put in the original complaint about?
Thank you, Ron. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Sorry, just to clarify, Ron, you said in your first statement you represent Chewton. How does that work? Are you elected or something?
I'm just the one of the people in the street that there's a new house being built up the top and it's got no drains, so everything runs downhill and into my place.
You represent some people, not Chewton,
Well-
as per se. I'm just trying to clarify. You said you represent Chewton. I can't work it that out.
Yeah, it's only 4 houses on the
Okay, thank you. And this is the budget. So how much is this budget? Your request for?
I'm not asking for the budget. I was hoping you had some left in your budget to ensure that you go further than what you've planned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other questions, councillors? Thanks, Ron. So just to clarify, so this is about a request to extend an existing plan for drainage works in Steel Street to cover those 4 houses that you refer to. And are they all on Steel Street, those houses? Yep. Yep. Yep.
You're not doing it.
And could you just, I can't see the map from here, just quickly describe the bit we're not doing. Is that the section from Henry Street to the highway, or?
No, Henry Street up the top.
Yep.
Runs that way. Steel Street
Yep.
is the one. Steel Street had 2, 3 houses and the road coming out of the bush.
Yep.
The water run down and into my place. I had a drain runs down into the creek. The new house is built. They put their own road in. Now the water runs out and straight into my place.
Right.
My place doesn't handle it.
Okay.
And I just thought, yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yep. Suzanne, Wesley Hill Public Hall Incorporated. Welcome, Suzanne.
Is that okay there?
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you regarding the budget for the submission for the Wesley Hill play space, and excuse my croaky voice. I think the time is right, not least of which the Wesley Hill market, the longest running continuous market in Victoria, is turning 50 next year. The proposed redevelopment of the Wesley Hill site complements the upgrade of the Elsie Palmer Field at Wesley Hill Recreation Reserve. The Wesley Hill community and more broadly Castlemaine locals and visitors will benefit from enhancements to the recreational facilities at the Elsie Palmer Field, with a counterpoint at the Hall site offering a multi-generational space to gather in a low-key, nature-based environment. There is a visible need and appreciation for this type of gathering space. The market is a barometer for us, particularly as we provide greater amenity at the hall. We see young teenage boys playing something called Magic the Gathering. I'm not sure what that is. They play that on the veranda, while young adult males are playing chess. Excuse me. Can I? Generously donated toys, books and dress-ups have been made available in the hall for over 6 months for kids to play with during the market. Our observations have been that the space brings together parents who have the opportunity to meet up, which we see as contributions to decreased feelings of isolation and increased connection. Also a little respite, sanity respite. In recognition of this, we have just worked with a local to open the hall every Friday morning between 9 and 12, providing a drop-in space for people to meet up. And we've waived our fee for that as a contribution to the community effort. We have also observed that the market is seeing an increasing number of diverse young people meeting up, indicating that the space is considered safe and non-judgmental. These are examples of how, given the space, Council's commitment to diversity, inclusion and equal access are seen in action. We are asking for funding for the infrastructure and the amenities, but really these are the foundations for increasing the social fibre of Wesley Hill and surrounds. The council may recollect our master plan at Wesley Hill. Survey responses told us that the community wants a play space based on the feedback to the survey responses. The master plan that Marie Edwards launched in late 24 was informed by over 270 survey respondents and many meetings with local business and community groups. Throughout our proposed process, we expect to continue consultation with community council and other stakeholders on the design and amenities. We also would like to leverage the generosity of volunteers and our community-based NFP status to obtain in-kind support, donations and discounts aligned with council expectations and standards. We would also like to work on ways to provide access to the toilet facilities on Fridays and weekends to offer further amenity for community members attending the site. As we seek this funding, we would also like to assure council that the committee membership is diverse, competent and diligent. We take our responsibilities seriously and we are financially prudent. This financial year, we've retrieved a long outstanding debt, which has improved our equity, and we are experiencing a consistent income with our market and hall hire fees. We see ourselves as solid partners. We are proposing 2 stages, the first being the establishment of a retaining wall on the Crown land adjacent to the boundary share between Wesley Hill and Mask. Council. We expect the focus on infrastructure, water management and road use is necessary and practical. This infrastructure work will improve the accessibility of the site. During this period, we would work alongside council during the consultation phase of the design of the nature spaces and amenity. Excuse me. We acknowledge the importance of approvals and consultation with DECA and council throughout the project. Costings have been provided as an estimate and Wesley Hill will drive to stay within budget and seek to fund and or secure in-kind support wherever possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Questions, councillors? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Susie. Just so clarification, first stage is a retaining wall. Yes. Second stage is the
area of amenity. So we call it a play space, but I suppose it's more a gathering space if you like. Yeah. And it would be a nature-based area. We would like to include, some small equipment, nothing too large. The proposal you might have noted has I think it's a tier 2 play space. So there might be some equipment there, sand pits and the like, but we're also focusing on making sure that we've got seating areas for young people to use in particular, older people to sit down and have a rest, but also try and incorporate, recently I saw a bench seat, for example, with bike pedals in front of them, which I thought was a fabulous idea. Putting one of those on the site would be excellent. So that's kind of what we would expect in that second stage. So this request is for the first stage, and then we would move into looking at the consultation process for the design of the play space and amenity, and obviously we'd be able to tighten up the budget through that process and what we could get in kind and from Wesley Hill as well.
Just lastly, the market is a really great place to gather and I go there often on a Saturday. I don't go there often outside of that. Are there other opportunities for the community to gather outside of the Saturday? I think you mentioned Fridays, but are there other places in that? It's because it's quite a distinct precinct.
It is a quite distinct precinct, and I suppose you could go to some businesses in the area if you wanted to get together. But I suppose that's the beauty of, you know, what we see in the market is that people just come to meet up and then you see somebody else and then you see somebody else. So there's that incidental interaction that you have with community rather than meeting up with, you know, one friend at a local cafe, for example. Walking around the botanical gardens might be another kind of way that you would, you know, kind of get that effect. But yeah, that would be the place that happens in Wesley Hill.
Thanks, Suzanne. Just a follow up to Councillor Maddox's question. So the area in question is the block, the council-owned block, or one of the DECA blocks at the north end of the market site, right?
So the retaining wall would sit at the north end of the Crown land managed by Wesley Hill Committee that is adjacent to the Crown land that's managed by council.
Gotcha.
And
That's the oddly shaped block.
Yes, the oddly shaped bit. And then the second stage would move across both parcels of land at the back.
The two northern ones.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thanks very much. Thanks.
Very much.
Lucy Young from Yimby, welcome. See.
Thank you. I think you guys need a bigger bucket. I don't envy you of money, not Yimby bucket. Yeah, I think most of you know what Yes in My Backyard Yimby is. When I was thinking about what to say, I have chosen to actually speak in the words of a young researcher that researched Yimby because I know she would be completely thrilled to know that her words were going to be used for something. She wanted her research to count. So I wanted to speak from this research done through RMIT. As the realities of climate change become increasingly urgent, the need to reimagine how we live with one another and the planet has never been clearer. This research explored how strong social networks and collective action underpin a community's ability to adapt and thrive amid environmental uncertainty. The case study of Yimby compost has shown that climate adaptation is not only a technical or ecological process, but also a profoundly social one. Yimby demonstrates that when people are able to come together within a framework that promotes community agency and inclusivity, they also build the trust, cooperation, and mutual support that makes communities more resilient. These relationships are as vital to adaptation as infrastructure or technology. They enable knowledge sharing, collective problem solving, and a renewed sense of agency in the face of global challenges that can often feel overwhelming. Importantly, this project, her project, highlights that adaptation is not just about responding to crisis, it's also about transformation. By reframing waste as a resource and neighbourhoods as places of collaboration, initiatives like Yimby encourage us to question the systems and values that have distanced people from each other and from nature. They remind us that resilience is cultivated through connection, through everyday actions that bind communities together and reconnect people with living systems that sustain us. Supporting and investing in community-led initiatives is crucial to building both social and ecological resilience. Projects like Yimby Compost offer more than environmental solutions. They provide pathways towards more caring, adaptive and connected ways of living in a changing world. Molly Ferguson, aged 23, from RMIT. But your decision is a financial one, so I'll just quickly talk some numbers. Today, Yimby involves around 620 households, 25 businesses and 47 composters. Tomorrow, the numbers will have grown and the next day. We collectively remove 2 tonnes of organics from landfill every week, amounting to a tangible savings to Mount Alexander Shire, currently of $24,000 per year in gate fees from landfill. No doubt a conservative estimate in a rapidly changing world, changing every moment as we speak. Our request is modest. We operate on a shoestring, but we do have material costs. For example, this year we'll spend around $20,000 on straw alone to mix with food scraps, make the highest quality compost it is possible to make. With the granting of this request, you will be investing in processes that serve people and this place, Jandak, Judge Aberon Country. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from councillors? Councillor Cordy.
Just a comment. There's been some straw donated to the Harcourt community that's not going to get used. So perhaps talk to me offline and we can see what we can do a deal on straw. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And I will comment to that we do some investigation when we've got to be really careful of what our inputs are. So we can actually only accept straw when we've spoken to the farmer and we can be assured of what stage they've used chemicals, because compost is a living process, and if we put straw in, and most local farmers, I will say, are actually amazing with their reduced chemical inputs. So thank you for the offer.
Other questions, councillors? Okay, thanks, Lucy. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Jacqueline, Business Mount Alexander, welcome.
Thanks very much for this opportunity. When the submission was made back in late November, it was only 6 weeks before the bushfires that devastated Harcourt, impacting 54 residents or 54 households and over 140 businesses. And at the time when we made this submission, we were just seeking some basic operational funds. We've asked for $10,000 to help support the engagement of our executive officer. But in the preceding, what are we now up to 10 weeks since those bushfires, we have spent close to $15,000 of our own time and pro bono endeavours supporting Harcourt's bushfire recovery. And we've taken a very specific approach to support the economic recovery, because Business Mount Alexander is all about supporting our business community, and they have not been impacted. I mean, yes, COVID was an extraordinary impact, but our community, our small businesses have never been impacted quite like this before, the devastation that's taken place out in Harcourt. So we've been really proactive from the get-go. The fires were still burning when I was on the phone. I was very concerned at that stage about the miniature railway, that even though that's a local community initiative, it represents an incredible economic drawcard because of its power with visitation and people going to Harcourt and spending money in the local businesses. And I was very concerned for VMR and was on the phone to the mayor, who was busily setting up a bushfire recovery centre in the town hall. But I was also on the phone to Lisa Chesters, to Marie Edwards, to Visit Victoria and to Destination Central Victoria. At that point, we thought the miniature railway was going to be lost, and I was very concerned with how we could help them. Little did I know that what was up in flames at that stage was the Harcourt Cool Store. And the loss of that incredible economic hub impacted over 85 businesses who were based there, including my own. And the disruption and devastation that loss has impacted all of the businesses concerned and Harcourt more broadly. So we've been working very closely to support those producers. And it really speaks to the role of Harcourt as a hub for Central Victoria, because many of those producers were not in fact from Harcourt and indeed not from our shire, but as a hub of food and beverage production, it just really showcased and celebrate what Harcourt is capable of. And we're really keen to see it built back and built back better. So we have been working alongside the HPA, working and meeting with Regional Development Victoria. We've been playing a really central role in advocacy, trying to seek funding. I'm on the phone to Marie Edwards' office every week, trying to establish when funding support will be available for businesses, because it's not. There hasn't been any, apart from primary producers. And unfortunately, the beverage producers are not deemed primary producers. So these small businesses, many of whom did not have insurance or had complex insurance needs, they have been left high and dry. So we're working really hard to support them. We've been working with FRRR to establish fundraising accounts and opportunities, and we have raised over $100,000 directly and have supported and encouraged other initiatives that are
probably going to match that as well. We've worked really closely with the Council's Economic Development team. We attended the Business Recovery workshop where we heard very clearly a request for a Harcourt Traders Association. So we've taken steps to actually initiate that, and we have a draft terms of reference to support a subcommittee. So Business Mount Alexander will auspice the Harcourt Traders Association, and we're seeking to support that with resources. And we have an expression of interest to ensure that we have diverse representation of various industry players from out in Harcourt and beyond. And again, I want to acknowledge that amazing partnership with Merrin and Daniel from the Economic Development team. That partnership has been taking place throughout the last 12 months. BMA has participated in the Careers Fair, in the United Nations Day for Small and Micro Businesses. We partnered with the Business Awards and have done a number of fantastic initiatives with Council. And we really want to continue that partnership. And we think that this year and the opportunities that are, never waste a crisis, never waste a crisis. And there are great opportunities arising from rebuilding and redeveloping the recovery in Harcourt. And we're very keen to continue this partnership with Council and ask you to continue to support us.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. And what a great way of taking us on that journey with you. My question, I guess, is in the context of how you were describing that the submission initially came in at the end of November, and clearly there's been absolutely dramatic shifts since then. And by the way, I love that. Is that your phrase about never waste a crisis? I like that a lot. It's not. Oh, anyway, congratulations on that.
I use it a lot, though. It's a dead white man, so it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Jacqueline. All right, the establishment of that potentially a Harcourt Traders Association. Are you shifting in terms of your request, are you indicating that that's where you would be investing the resources if you were successful?
No, we'd be seeking other sources of funding to support further initiatives in Harcourt. What this is for core funding, just to keep the organisation going. In the last financial year, we had income of about $40,000, of which $10,000 was a quarter of that money did come from Council. A large amount of that money does go into our administration, employing an executive officer and helping keep our comms and our membership base engaged. We have 570 people who receive our newsletter. We have 89 paid members. Our big focus is trying to grow that and reach more members, but this has been a major distraction, but it's a worthy distraction. So that $10,000 would be to continue to support the organisation overall and allow us to continue advocating for more investment. We will be hoping to secure more funding and to do more work. We'd love to be able to put somebody on specifically to work with Harcourt, and we're looking forward to working alongside the new staff that Council will employ to support Harcourt.
Thanks. Great.
Any other questions? Councillor Maddock. Driscoll.
Hi, Jacqueline. How many of the businesses do you reckon BMA sort of networks with or touches or helps throughout the year? I mean, I know it's a guess, but percentage-wise, what do you reckon?
Well, we have 89 paid members, and any given social event that we conduct, there's always another 20 or so who are not paid members that attend. But then there's more broadly, like there's only a handful of the businesses we're supporting out in Harcourt who are members. But we are, I would be in contact with a business out in Harcourt or connected to Harcourt. Again, some of those businesses are based elsewhere, but I would be speaking to one of those every second day. So it would run into the hundreds that we are. And we also go and speak and meet with retailers. Again, they're not all members, but we don't restrict our services and our assistance, our advice and our advocacy to members. This is for the business community more broadly. We've got a fantastic new initiative coming up thanks to the community impact, the business community impact grants, and that is a buy local product. And we foresee over 50 businesses, diverse businesses signing up and that's our minimum, is 50 businesses signing up to the buy local program.
Councillor Maddock.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Jacqueline. Similar question, but if we were to take a snapshot of the profile of the business makeup in town, get micro business, small business, primary producers, trades, goes on and on. Is BMA broadly representative of the business cross section, or is it more skewed to retail, to food and beverage?
No, it's really diverse. We are doing an analysis of our member base as we speak, and it is primarily small and micro and sole traders. So we're always open to. We worked with Mitsubishi and Toyota last year to host an event. We've spoken to and worked with Don KR in the past, but they don't need us, and they don't need the networking opportunities that we provide for those small businesses who operate in silos and really appreciate connecting with other operators. It's very diverse in terms of we have allied health, we do have trades and construction, we have some retail, we have food and beverage producers, we have accommodation and tourism providers. It's very diverse. There's not a lot of industries that are not represented in one way or another.
Okay, so if there's a skewing, it's only in the size of the business.
That's correct. Yeah.
And just to confirm, so you're saying small and micro. I'm trying to remember back to my business studies. Is that less than 10 employees?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So
and sole traders as well.
Do you go into medium as
Absolutely. My own business employs 48 people, and I still consider myself a small business, and we're a classic example of the sort of business that engages with BMA.
Yep. Right. Thanks.
Councillor Hastwell.
Yeah, just one more. So Councillor Maddock asked about the representation, I guess, around the town.
Yes.
Business Mount Alexander, and obviously you've talked about Harcourt. In terms of your scope across the Shire, what does that look like? Newstead, Maldon, etc.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is something that we're always keen to expand on, and we try to do events outside of Castlemaine for that reason. Maldon is well represented by Maldon Inc., and we've reached out and attempted partnerships, and we keep open dialogue with them all the time. They are very focused on Maldon, so that it's harder to get them to engage more broadly. One of the reasons that we're keen to auspice and support Harcourt in establishing a traders association is to avoid that silo that can happen when a small community just looks into themselves and therefore can miss out on partnership and collaboration and the bigger strategic picture. And that's what we really want to bring to Harcourt. We'll do that as a trial, as a pilot, and it may be that there's such a strong and dynamic force out there that they can stand alone, but we're also really keen to avoid duplicating governance structures. Why have multiple AGMs? Why have multiple reports back to Consumer Affairs when you can combine and share those necessary governance obligations? So yes, Harcourt is definitely a model that we would love to see replicated. We do have some businesses. We already have existing Harcourt businesses. There is a couple in Taradale and Guildford, and we'd love to see greater expansion.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you very much. Now, I think you can
sit down and get up again.
You can sit down and get up again, yeah. And now, Jacqueline Brody-Hands from Castlemaine Fringe. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you. I'm going to add some colour and movement because that's what Fringe does. Just be grateful I'm not wearing a funny hat, but you've probably already seen this. This is a bit of an evaluation document we did after the last year's Fringe Festival, and I just wanted to, it's got some great stats, it's got some great testaments to the success of the event. But first of all, I want to acknowledge the amazing success of the Castlemaine State Festival, and I hope that everybody is enjoying and participating and seeing the incredible benefits of its return. So last year when Castlemaine Fringe took place, it was in absence of the State Festival, and it was the first time that had happened in probably 20 years. So the Castlemaine State Festival shifted and we were left not high and dry, but we had centre stage, and we did a good job of occupying that centre stage, and the event was incredibly successful. And I want to acknowledge Council's support, previously providing some financial assistance. It made the world of difference. And the really key thing where that core financial support matters is it allows us to focus on our operations and our new role, the second only funded role or paid role we had was employing an operations manager. And in doing so, we were able to take the festival and the organisation to the next level. We were able to secure money, and nothing justifies that investment and return on investment quite like leveraging for more money. And we were able to get the extra funding and tap into both marketing, event and Festivals Australia funding. And that really assisted us deliver an extraordinary festival. We had really great community participation, really good economic returns. So we know that the creative industries is a huge economic driver in this town. And our estimation, because we had close to it was over 20,000 people. It was about 33,000 people who attended the various events. But we estimated approximately just over $2 million was spent in the Shire, and that was based on an average spend of about $110 per person. So some of that, obviously, your locals who go to free events and walk there and don't actually spend any money to pack a picnic. But then we know that we had intrastate and interstate visitors, and we know people came up from Melbourne and spent the weekend. So we know that there were people that were seriously investing, but we also know that they were buying art. So the figure that we calculated based on the arts that was sold through our Open Studios program, we had, I think it was 80 open studios, and that figure was in excess of $30,000. So that money goes back directly to the artists, as does the money that's spent employing artists and art technicians. So once again, the economic return on investment from the Castlemaine Festival is really significant. And so we really appreciate the support that Council has shown us previously, and we're hoping that you will continue to do so. We know that art and coming together is really powerful for community cohesion. You only had to look at the thousands of people that were on the street on Friday night for the opening of the State Festival, and we saw similar results with 4,000 people coming to the street party that the Fringe hosted. So we've got a number of events coming up. This year's Fantastico, our variety show, is celebrating David Attenborough's 100th birthday. And we, as you know, we continue to fundraise and support ourselves. We do not rely on handouts. Arts funding is getting harder and harder to get. We are looking at some art projects, community art projects out in Harcourt, and have applied for some funding there. Again, we know the power of art and bringing people together for creative pursuits is so good for mental health and well-being and community connectivity. So we're really excited.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Questions, councillors? Councillor Walker.
Not so much a question statement, but interesting, and I raise this positively. First of all, what you distributed, noticing that audience 70% of women, which is a very high proportion, and interestingly, and you did. Sorry? Yeah, survey results.
Yes, that's from 125 survey respondents, because women tend to respond to surveys more than men.
Okay, perhaps that's.
We want our voices heard, gents.
Well, I thought that was impressive. And the other thing, and curiously, you talked about the people coming in from sort of outside the Shire, as many do, but I thought it was positive that of the respondents, 72% are Shire residents, which to me was very good.
Yes, and we have a commitment to a 70-30 split on our programming content. So 70% is all local, and if we make some space for at the outer towners, which is sometimes good to see, and it's good for them to experience Castlemaine. We know that we had performers that came and staged shows during the Fringe that were trying the waters and testing what it was and whether they had an audience, and they have come back since. So that's just really great for the town.
So if it's 125 respondents and only 24% of males, that's suggesting men are more illiterate. I'm joking.
And the other exciting development that came out of the Fringe was two sellout shows that are now sellout shows in the Castlemaine State Festival. So as an incubator for supporting, and in this case it was Babushka, the story of Kate Bush, and all our dads are dead, all our mums are dead, life's too short. And again, these shows have sold out in the state festival. So we're really proud of birthing some new talent and art. And we've also partnered with the state festival and are conducting, we have an exhibition out at Lot 19 and a wearable art fashion parade on Saturday night, and we will be closing the garden party on Sunday, and it will be a handing of the flame. We will, from the state festival to the Fringe Festival, and we look forward to, burning brightly.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll.
Jacqueline, the funding currently, I think you get $10,000 in a non-year and an additional $10,000 in the festival year. So this funds that you're requesting, is that another $10,000?
Yes, we'd like $10,000 each year because we don't stop in the non-festival year. Clearly, this is actually our busy year because this is the planning, this is the fundraising, this is actually when the hard yakka takes place. Not that the festival year itself is all fun and games, but yes, we are seeking $10,000 each year.
Thank you.
Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Jacqueline. And can you also clarify, I was taking some notes down here, but in terms of the leverage with the operations position last time and attracting external funding. So Festivals Australia and
Visit Victoria.
VV, okay.
Yes. Yep.
And what kind of amounts does that come to? I can't, if it's on here, my apologies.
No, that was close to 100,000.
About 100. Okay.
Between the two of them. We also had some regional development funding, some regional arts development, and we took a beautiful project with Ned Middleton, who is an artist who lives with Down syndrome, and he did an installation here, a live painting installation, and we also took that up to Natimuck to their Fringe Festival. So we've been working a lot on our partnerships. We're a part of what is known as World Fringe, so an international collective of fringe festivals.
Cool. And if you were successful in your ask, would you anticipate that you're looking at a similar kind of leverage in terms of attracting external funding?
Absolutely, but it is getting harder, really harder. They're cutting arts money, so we're trying to look more creatively and look at community projects and also partnering. So you heard from Shelley tonight from Ravens Theatre Company. So looking to work with other arts organisations so that we can secure funding for them to be part of Fringe. So there's a number of projects to that effect that we're already looking at.
Thanks.
Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Jacqueline, just wondering practically what would be the impact of not getting this funding?
We probably wouldn't be able to continue the operations role. We're just actually in the process of recruiting. Our operations manager took a full-time role in Bendigo, and our roles are part-time unless it's during the festival itself. So we are recruiting, and we'd be in a position where we couldn't continue that role.
So then it'd be entirely volunteer.
No, we have our festival director. Most of our fundraising goes towards supporting that role, and that's Azzy's role. But the operations it's been a game changer in ensuring that we could develop really good policies to have volunteer programs. The operations manager supports 5 subcommittees that involve not only our board but other members in the community to do everything from comms, fundraising, the events that we conduct, volunteer management, people and culture, and there's one other I can't recall. But that operations manager is really critical. They're almost a CEO. It's a general manager role.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
John Levers, Forest Creek Revitalisation Project, and former councillor Kay Swanton. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm representing my land care colleague, John Levers, and myself, Kay Swanton. So thanks for this opportunity. Our submission is for the infrastructure works to support the Forest Creek Revitalisation Project. The aim of our submission is to improve public access to the Creek Precinct. This was a key message from the community consultation undertaken in designing the project and reflects community use along Forest Creek. It complements the current project to revitalise the channelized section of the creek alongside the tennis courts and the Western Reserve, that is on the south side of the courts and the reserve. The first stage of these works was done in March 2025, and the second stage from the Wheeler Street Bridge to the Barker Street Bridge will commence in early April, we hope April the 27th, with our contractor Edwards Environmental. The Forest Creek Revitalisation Project is a land care and community-driven project with strong support from Council, North Central Catchment Management Authority, DECA and Jajarong. Community support for the project and appreciation of the creek has grown since stage 1 of our project, with significant numbers of volunteers working on the project over many number of hours. In concrete terms, our submission is for the installation of 4 picnic tables and bench seats, 6 park bench seats, 6 wayfinding signs, 6 interpretive signs, and upgrading of the path along the north side of the creek. Although we see the priority really as the seating, if finances are tight for Council. The requested items will enhance the access and use of the open area in Green Hill Place near 10-foot Bridge down to the south side of the Western Reserve, and we've allowed for picnic tables and park seats located on the Greenhill Avenue side of the channelized section and the north side overlooking the Western Reserve. Provision of these facilities is outside the scope of the current project funding from the Australian Government Urban Rivers and Catchment Program, which focuses really just on the waterway, the rehabilitation and the biodiversity. The infrastructure proposed in our submission contributes to the future linkage between Campbell's Creek Trail and the Leanganuk Happy Valley Trail. It is consistent with a number of your strategies, the Council Plan 2025 to 29, Public Open Space Strategy and the Active Transport Strategy. The proposal will provide great community benefit, support the current Forest Creek Revitalisation Project and enhance community appreciation for the main urban waterway in Castlemaine, which for many, many years now has languished and is perceived as really just an open drain running through that edge of Castlemaine. So thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Questions, councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Kate, have you thought of, sorry, the amount you asked is $200,000, is that right?
Sorry, I just missed the amount you gave.
$200,000?
That's right,
yeah.
yes.
And have you thought about staging it, so like chunking it over a period of time? Or that it's staged?
That could certainly happen,
okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So if it did happen, what would your first stage would be, like you said, the table and chairs, is that right?
We would work with our revitalisation group and the council representative on the group of the council officer to understand what those priorities might be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Kay. It appears your submission is fairly complete, that we don't have any more questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you
Thanks very
much.
much.
Thanks, John. Okay, so we just have a few left. I'll just read this for those who came in since 5:30. The purpose of this meeting is to hear members of the public speak on their 2026-27 budget submissions. Only those who have pre-registered to speak at this meeting will be able to speak to their submission. There will be no suspension of standing orders. Therefore, other members of the public will not be able to ask questions. Each speaker in addressing the council, 1, will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. 2, shall extend due courtesy and respect to the council and the processes under which it operates. 3, shall take direction from myself as chair of the meeting whenever I call upon a speaker to do so. And 4, shall not attempt to enter into discussion or debate with council. However, councillors may ask questions of clarification of the speaker. Please note, councillors may ask questions if required to clarify or understand the detail of your submission. Questions may not be required for all submissions, and the absence of any questions from councillors is not an indication of the level of interest. So can I ask Mateen to come forward, please, to speak about the Team Castlemaine Chuffs and hockey play space. Welcome, Mateen. Thank you.
And I'm a co-founder of Team Castlemaine, the Chuffs, with Carly McGinniskin, who some of you may know. As you're passing that around, I'll point out a few things once you've all got it. You'll notice the uniform that I've got. We're very lucky to have 2 local Indigenous artists design our playing kit. And we wear it every single week. We thought where the AFL wears their Indigenous Guernsey once a season, we want to represent our community every single week. So we've been very lucky to have 2 Indigenous artists design both our uniform and then our logo, the Chuffs, and we're also called the Chuffs. Now, if you look on the back, first of all, you can see there was an old Castlemaine hockey team. I don't know how many of you were involved or were aware that there was a flourishing hockey club and community in Castlemaine many years ago. Now, we have revitalised that and started Team Castlemaine, the Chuffs, last year. Now, last year we had 100 members in our first year. We have 3 adult teams this year playing in the Bendigo competition. There's no local competition. We have to travel to Bendigo. We have over 100 juniors this year playing hockey, which is amazing, in our second year. And that comprises through Hook into Hockey, which is under 12s, an under 12s program, an under 14s program, and through schools as well. Now, profits, the way we've set up our company is that profits will be distributed to support those who don't have the financial means to participate in sport. So we're setting ourselves up as a not-for-profit or like not-for-profit to support the community as much as possible. And at the moment, we have 0 physical presence in Castlemaine. So that is our ask for today, to be considered to have a physical presence in Castlemaine. Now, there's a couple of different options of what that could look like. We have put in a budget submission, but there's many different ways to skin the cat. We could convert one of the existing tennis courts into a training/junior hockey pitch, which would involve resurfacing, lights, AstroTurf. We also want to make this as inclusive as possible. So just because it's a hockey pitch or Team Castlemaine, we want it to be a multi-sport field. We don't want it to close it out to other people who want to use the area. Another option is if you're going to budget a hockey pitch in entirety, that costs about $700,000. So the other option is to do it in stages or to partner with other sporting organisations also looking for AstroTurf. So there's an AstroTurf, there's an outdoor hockey component, there's also an indoor hockey component. Now, there is no indoor hockey facility north of Melbourne in Victoria. There are people travelling from Bendigo all the way to Melbourne to play indoor hockey. Now, I don't know. I've made many questions and queries to the council about, is there a facility that is currently not being used or we could share with another sporting group to be able to play indoor hockey in this area? And if we were able to set it up in a professional way, we would be able to attract tournaments and competitions into the community. So our ask is twofold. One, for an outdoor facility, and secondly, for consideration, which is an addition, around an indoor facility. Now, we want to create a physical place for adults to train, and juniors to learn and to play. We want to create a flourishing and growing junior program and a pathway for juniors to be able to play into senior and more elite pathways. We're a hyper inclusive club and community group. And in our second year, I think our numbers speak for ourselves. We have an opportunity to be able to really revitalise the existing community of hockey, but we do need a physical space. And that's it.
Thanks, Mateen. Very interesting. Questions from councillors, Councillor Maddock and then Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mateen. Just to clarify, so you're saying 100 grand for an outdoor pitch, but there's potential to stage this.
Yeah.
And I can think of a number of disused tennis courts
Absolutely
around. What's the sort of most attainable thing that would be of benefit to you guys? Is it like, what's the surface? Can it be bitumen? Is it just as simple as re-bituming an old tennis court, or does it have to be turf? Or
so to reduce risk of playing, turf is best. And all the elite teams, and as you move into adults, you play on turf. So if you see the top few photos, that's our Hook into Hockey program. Those photos were taken on Sunday, where we trained 30 kids that have signed up to Hook into Hockey. This is under 12s. And that was at the West End tennis courts, which is on bitumen, but it creates a risk of falls. So ideally, I mean, it's okay to be used at the moment, but we are looking for an AstroTurf area to reduce safety risks and to be able to get kids the experience they need to be able to move on to an elite pathway.
Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Martine. I'm really interested in a little bit more information around who's attracted into hockey. 100 plus juniors in your first year is exciting. It's obviously indicating a real hunger. What do you think is drawing kids and adults into this sport? And are there aspects around gender in that as well? Who are the people?
A lot of the adults that are playing are ex-players who just haven't picked up a stick in a long time, including myself. I had a 20-year break, and so my stick skills are not as good as they used to be, but I can still wear the playing kit, which is great. A lot of the juniors, it comes from a variety of areas. So a lot of the juniors, their parents have played in the past, or they have had some connection with hockey in the past. Now, there's a Carly McGinniskin, who's my co-founder. She runs PE for the area, and normally on a sports day once a year, year 5 and 6s get offered footy or netball, and it's been the same thing year after year after year. This year we've offered hockey as well, and we've had over 70 kids from years 5 and 6 in the community put their hand up and say, I'd like to try hockey.
Great, thank you. And then in terms of future growth, I know that's a hard thing to predict. Do you have any sense of how the growth might look over, say, the next 2 to 5 years?
It is well, it's impossible to know for sure. Looking at the facts, so we had 100 members in our first year. We should grow that, let's say, by 20 to 50% this year in year 2. That will level itself out and not expect the same amount of growth year on year. We don't expect to grow to be of a similar size to soccer, for example. That's just a much more popular sport. However, I would think that given the significant take-up early, and if we're able to keep those juniors on board, then we should be able to see, I would think, 20% year-on-year growth.
Thank you.
Other questions, councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Martine, you haven't got a cash amount in mind, you've just got a playing service in mind. Is that correct?
Well, we did put in a budget submission, but that was not knowing what surface we would take, not whether they're tennis courts or a different area. So the next stage in our budget submission would be to identify a location and then to do a scoping study to identify what are the actual financials. Ideally, we do it on a phased approach to feed in with your budget, and ideally, we'd be moving towards a larger AstroTurf area over multiple years.
Do you have any suggestions where you think, like, 1, 2, 3 places you'd think you could play? Like,
yeah.
You're out there with a whole bunch of people. You might have sided a few areas within our community that you think, hey, that would be good? Do you know any of those off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, so there's the West End tennis courts where we've had our hook into hockey. There's the Guildford tennis courts. There's 4 or 5 Campbell's Creek tennis courts. There's 4 or 5 tennis courts in the area, and we don't want to exclude tennis players from playing tennis. We just want to convert the surface to AstroTurf so that it's a multi-purpose and safer surface. So, but there are 4 or 5 reasonably unused tennis courts in the area that I think would be prime for this sort of opportunity.
And one other thing, sorry, and excuse my ignorance, does that help elsewhere where you resurface it and tennis people can play tennis and hockey people can play hockey? Is that like normal or happens often?
It does. And I've approached the tennis courts multiple times, and unfortunately they've declined our offer for us to be able to play hockey on their pitch. Not that it's the right size, the right shape, but that would also be an option moving forward. But I don't know what influence the council has over the tennis. And anyway, we won't go into that.
No, I understand it.
But
no, thank you for that. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. Sorry, just a quick follow-up to Matt's question. So, am I right in thinking that 2 tennis courts would make a seniors pitch, one single seniors hockey pitch?
No, not even close.
Okay, so
No.
what would 2 tennis courts?
2 tennis courts would comprise of about a third of a hockey pitch.
I see. And so where tennis and hockey are sharing, say 2 tennis courts for maybe a junior pitch or whatever, the holes for the posts for the nets, that's not a problem. I guess you have little plates or something.
We'd put plugs in.
Yep.
So we'd remove the nets and we'd put plugs in.
Yep.
There's also modified adult competitions we can play. So we'd love to be able to bring hockey competitions back into Castlemaine for adults.
Yep.
So there's what's called hockey fives. So 5-a-side, and that's played on a similar size to 2 tennis courts.
2 tennis courts.
But a
okay.
full-size hockey pitch is much larger than 2
And
tennis
pardon my
courts.
ignorance, Martina, a full-size hockey pitch is the same as a full-size soccer pitch, is
It's
it?
smaller.
It's a bit smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Maddock.
Just a follow-on question, and forgive me if it sounds repetitive. Is there because we've looked at turf and the costing of turf in the soccer feasibility, and it's huge expense. Is there an option? And I took my kid along to something in one of the netball courts, which it didn't look like that.
Yeah, netball courts last year. The hook
It's got to look like it.
yeah.
Is that?
Are there alternative surfaces?
Is that desirable? Is that more desirable than just asphalt to have?
So it's okay. It won't meet our needs, really. What would meet our needs is resurfacing an Astro pitch, resurfacing a tennis court to be an Astro pitch for juniors and for adults to train, as well as hockey 5 competitions. In addition to that, if there was an indoor facility we could use, then we could actually put a stake in the ground and say, we are going to be the indoor hockey centre for regional Victoria and attract national competitions. So that is another way to skin the cat, but we would really like an AstroTurf area where we can train as well.
And indoors still AstroTurf? Or
No, indoors not.
What's the surface on the indoor?
It's just wooden floorboards, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I've spoken to council about different options, but unfortunately they haven't led to successful outcomes. Because everyone feels a bit scared of a hockey stick and a ball on a surface when there's different things you can do with indoor hockey these days. You can put tape on your stick. Your stick is different anyway. You use a different sort of ball. It's not as scary as it sounds.
So a gym floor.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any further questions, councillors? Okay, thanks, Martine. Thanks very much.
Last thing, we're also recruiting as well. So if anyone would like to play hockey this year, teamc.com.au. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, so our 22nd item is to be read by Councillor Hastwell. Thank you, Councillor. And this is to be read by Councillor Hassel on behalf of Gina Pederick. The topic is advancing gender equality in place naming and public art. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, so reading from Gina Pederick's budget submission. Please accept this submission for consideration as part of Council's 26-27 budget process. I understand that this submission may be read out at a council meeting, published on council's website and recorded in the meeting minutes. Budget submission. Advancing gender equality in place naming and public art. I am a local community member writing to encourage council to continue and strengthen its role in improving gender equality in place naming and public art. Across Victoria, women remain significantly underrepresented in the names of streets, parks, reserves, buildings, and in public art, despite women's substantial contributions to our communities. This is a well-recognised issue with strong momentum for change. Since 2022, state government investment in policy reform, research and capacity building has supported meaningful progress, with 68% of new commemorative place names in 2025 honouring women, up from just 26% in 2022. Local governments have been fundamental to this progress. Councils across Victoria have contributed to change through practical actions aligned with the 7 steps developed through the Put Her Name On It campaign, demonstrating that this is a global issue with a local solution. This work aligns directly with Council's existing obligations and responsibilities under the Gender Equality Act, which requires councils to consider the different needs and experiences of people of all genders in policies, programs and services. Our Equal State, Victoria's Gender Equality Strategy and Action Plan 2023 to 2027, including the target for 70% of new commemorative place names to honour women, and the naming rules for places in Victoria 2022, which require naming authorities to consider gender equality in naming proposals. With the commemorative place naming gap across Victoria estimated to be as high as 40,000 places, there remains significant work to be done. I respectfully request that Council allocate funding in the 26-27 budget or within existing resources where possible to begin or accelerate place naming and public art equality locally. Requested budget items or internal resourcing options. 1. Undertake an audit of council-controlled roads, features and locations for gender representation. 2. Gender impact assessment. Undertake a gender impact assessment relating to place naming and public art. External estimate $2,000. 3. A name bank. Develop a list of notable local women and their stories, including family approvals, to support future naming decisions. External estimate $15,000. 4. Policy development. Create or amend Council's place naming policy to embed the state target of 70% of new commemorative names honouring women. Internal estimate 150 hours, external estimate 15,000. 5. Governance. Establish an advisory committee with councillor representation or an internal working group to guide planning, implementation and monitoring within existing resources. 6. Action plan. Develop a place naming and public art equality action plan. Internal estimate 10 hours, external estimate $1,000. 7. Resourcing. Ensure responsibility for place naming and public art equality is included within an existing role or consider a part-time or project-based role to undertake this work. Indicative cost minimum of $40,000 for 12 months. And 8, visible outcomes. Commit to naming at least one new place after a woman in 2026 and annually thereafter. Place naming is already an existing council function, meaning much of this work can be undertaken as a one-off investment and then embedded into business as usual practice. Public art operates differently, and I therefore request that any existing public art budget prioritise projects recognising notable and diverse women, or that council allocate at least $75,000 annually for public art projects that commemorate women as a demonstrated and ongoing commitment. Improving representation through place naming and public art is a practical, visible and community building way for council to meet its gender equality obligations while celebrating the full history of our municipality. I thank council for considering this submission and for its continued leadership in advancing equality at a local level. Kind regards, Gina Pederick.
Thank you, Councillor Hasselman. Thank you, Gina. We note that submission. We'll move on to the final submission, which is Rachel Stewart, Castlemaine Safe Space. Welcome, Rachel. Sure. Sure you can. Yeah, I'll join you. You do the YMCA. We could be one of those funky workplaces that do Zumba.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to address you all today. These shoes in the first pile represent the shoes worn by the average number of people who suicide in our local government area each year. The second pile represents the shoes of the people who are contemplating suicide at the moment or who will suicide by the end of this year in our local government area. Our suicide rate is significantly higher than the Victoria and Australian averages, and suicide was the leading cause of death in the 15 to 44-year-old age group. One of these piles of shoes also represents the average number of Australians who will suicide each day this year. Having personally lost both my brother and my father to suicide, I can tell you this is a huge loss. A huge loss. And our Shire recognises that we have this huge problem. Council's own Working Together for a Healthy, Connected Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, 2025 to 2029, it's a lot to say, stresses the importance of the following key elements. That we need in our Shire to expand community-led mental health and social connection initiatives. We need to have places where everyone feels welcome and safe. We need to have access to services, community participation, opportunities for people to get involved, in particular by volunteering, and more community and peer-led wellbeing programs. And these are your words I'm quoting here. Why? Quoting again from your own plan, because our Shire has higher psychological stress and distress and mental health presentations than the Victorian average. Over 50% in our Shire state that their mental health is below very good. We have higher than state average rates of self-reported mental health conditions, loneliness, stress, burnout, residents affected by food insecurity, adults reporting alcohol consumption at risky levels, higher family violence incidents, higher alcohol-related deaths, and our treatment referral rates are lower than state and neighbouring shires. Coincidentally, these factors are the primary risk factors for those contemplating suicide, with nearly half of all suicides not connected to prior mental health conditions, but being purely circumstantial. I'm going to hand over to Helen.
I'm Helen Dewhurst, for those that don't know me. How is Council going to achieve these important recommended strategies and actions? Can we suggest that Cass is doing a lot of this for you? Consistently over the last 3.5 years, which is when we started, we've had
1,200 guest visits from those in emotional distress, feeling lonely or isolated, and or thinking about suicide. We have 36 trained local peer volunteers, and we have more in training. And we have had over 20,000 local volunteer hours donated. So we are a relatively cheap service. Our guest visits are continuing to grow. In July 2022, which is when we started, we had 15 guests in our first month. We had a record of 30 guest visits last month. Oh, sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. Our regular shifts have expanded to 10 to 15 guests per shift. The Harcourt bushfires, worldwide fears around petrol shortages and inability to travel, coupled with a general communal sense of lack of agency, suggests our high guest numbers will be maintained and may well go up. Also, our newest initiative is the Castlemaine Safe Space Food Relief Pantry. We have an indoor and outdoor pantry, and our 24-hour outdoor food pantry is open for 24 hours, and it also provides an option for people to come anonymously and help themselves. We hope you can see that Castlemaine Safe Space is heavily assisting Council to meet its recommended strategies and actions as stated in its Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. We are providing increased visibility and access to local mental health support, which is proving to be very popular, and we are addressing food insecurity. But Castlemaine Safe Space has no recurrent funding, and in terms of financial income is purely grant and donation based. Nearly half of our annual expenses contribute towards rent and rental outgoings. Unfortunately, most grants don't pay rent and rental outgoings. Grants are mostly awarded for the purpose of holding events and introducing new initiatives. They tend to be sums between $3,000 and $5,000, and at best they allow for modest fundraising. And holding events and putting in place new initiatives takes many hours and much effort away from our core mission of providing safe, non-judgmental and confidential mental health support to our local residents by local residents with their own lived experience. At the same time, events and new initiatives tax our existing peer volunteer base, which risks losing those without the capacity to give more hours if they feel too pressured. So we are trying to head towards self-sustainability by bringing in other like-minded agencies to share our space and contribute towards our rental costs. However, to date, this has not been sufficient to ensure we are able to confidently continue our services. For this reason, we are requesting $15,000 from Council to contribute towards our rental fees and rental outgoing, while Council likely acknowledges that we are providing a vital service in our shire and one which Council is likely to be proud of. We can't do it alone. We need this financial help from Council to keep us going, and hopefully Council can see how much our residents benefit by having such a long-standing, fully operational and voluntary mental health support network. It has been warmly embraced by our community, and it is assisting Council to achieve its publicised priorities and goals. So let's keep these shoes on the feet of our community members and reduce suicide in Mount Alexander Shire.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, thanks, Helen, and thanks, Rachel. Councillors, questions? Councillor Maddock.
That's a question I've asked a few submitters, and thank you for the work you're doing and for the presentation. If you weren't to receive this money from us, what would be the impact on your organisation and the community?
Close before the end of this year. What we're requesting is less than a quarter of our the money that we need each year to keep us going. So it's not a huge proportion, but it's enough to keep us open until the end of the year, financial year, I mean.
Councillor Hasrell.
Thank you, and thanks very much also for the striking image, you know, at the beginning of your presentation. I think that really brings things home. I guess my question also is around, you know, the challenges obviously that you're facing in terms of finding partners that will assist in making, you know, the organisation more sustainable. Do you have any sense of what the key barriers are, or do you have other options for developing those partnerships? I know it's a tricky question.
Quite a long way. I think Helen would agree.
Yes, we have over the time we've been functioning, we've done quite a lot of work. We have, you know, we've canvassed businesses in the town, and we haven't had a lot of response, I have to say. We have had some assistance from Rotary, and of course we have done fundraising ourselves, and we do get some donations, which we greatly appreciate. But in terms of finding ongoing partners, we haven't had a lot of success with that.
If we can find a philanthropic grantor, it's very hard for us to be self-sustainable because we don't have a way of raising money. We're volunteer-led, and we provide a service, but we don't take money for it.
And one of our other issues is we do have difficulty finding, we have quite a lot of people that volunteer and are happy to help in the space, and that is great, but we don't have a lot of people that are prepared to do the committee type of work. So there's a lot of work falls on our shoulders and the small number of other people that are helping us on the committee. So, you know, we're doing the best we can. Yeah.
Currently we have, I think, 4 different groups sharing the space that contribute towards our rent, and that number will grow, but space sharers come and go as well.
Yeah. And they are all groups that have, you know, they're not, they're not in suicide prevention, but they're all doing things that align with our values that are contributing to community.
So it's like Alcoholics Anonymous can't pay a lot of rent, but they'll give us a small representative amount of money.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Driscoll.
Oh, you mentioned you trained 36 volunteers. Is that like an in-house training session you do, or do you outsource that?
We initially, and Rachel knows more about this than I do, initially when Safe Space started, it was through an organisation called Roses in the Ocean, and they do get some government funding. They're not based in a particular place. Their employees work all over Australia, and they provide a lot of the training. And for the first 3 years, they gave us not a huge amount of funding, but they did give us regular funding. But it's under the understanding that that's commencement funding, and now that 3 years has finished, and we don't get any more funding from them. They also covered things like insurance, which we have to pay ourselves now, and training, and they still do provide the training, but we contribute towards that.
Councillor Cordy.
Yeah, so can you just remind us what we gave you last year and what the ask is this year?
You gave us $10,000 last year, if I recall correctly, and we're asking for 15,000, accepting that we might get 10,000. We would like to ask for 100,000. Being realistic.
Thanks for that.
Any more questions, councillors? Just one from me. I might have this wrong, but I think I recall last year's submission, you made reference that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you said that you had people that sometimes come to Mostyn Street from well beyond our shire. Is that still the case? Is the Safe Space still attracting people regionally in central Victoria?
Yes, it is. I don't know what the percentage are. I think the majority of them are local, but we have some people that come up from Melbourne.
Still.
There
are not a lot of rural safe spaces. In fact, there's not a lot of safe spaces, full stop. I mean, it's a relatively new initiative, and was it the first?
Safe space
in Australia? Yeah.
And And we've sponsored two others to open as well. So,
But just as an example, I had somebody come in when I was on shift, and she said to me, she said she didn't want to give her name, and that was fine. She'd come up from Melbourne, and she had found us through the Roses in the Ocean website. So that tells me that she had suicidal thoughts and she was looking for a safe space to go. Possibly she'd had bad experiences in the health system, I don't know. But she really just wanted a safe place to be and to sit, and I think she was possibly just checking us out. That's a little unusual, but you know, when you get people come in like that, it makes you think, well, you know, we're doing something here that's needed.
and I think what you mean, it's the distance that that person travelled that was unusual, not the presentation that she came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we've had a few people coming down from Bendigo as well.
Yeah. Councillor Driscoll.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance here, but so can you just quickly run through what? So I walk in, I'm stressed, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I sit down, I meet someone. What happens then?
Initially, when you walk in, you'll be greeted at the door. So you don't, because we also have a social space that's screened off. So we don't want you to have to go through the distress of, you know, being seen by many other people. So we'll meet you at the door. We'll ask you if you'd like a one-on-one conversation. You would say yes. We'll offer you something hot to drink or something cold. Then we'll take you into a screened off area where you can have that one-on-one conversation relatively privately with one of the trained peer volunteers.
And then do you sort of, because you can't be with that person all day, do you sort of then direct the traffic in terms of maybe have a chat with this organisation and this organisation?
We do. What we primarily do is we say, what's been going on for you? Because this is not what happens in emergency departments. Emergency departments do not ask what the circumstances are behind what's led a person to present to us. In the telling of that story, in receiving non-judgmental and empathic response, often the urge to suicidal thoughts around suicide, they definitely diminish and they often go away. We invite people to come back, but yes, there's a time limit. We're open for 2.5 hours. Sometimes we'd spend 45 minutes to an hour with a person, and the other peer volunteers will check in with the person who's speaking with the individual who's come in. We don't ask your name, we don't ask any contact details or anything like that, and we do not refer people to we wouldn't contact triage or emergency services in Bendigo unless you want us to. We could ask you if you'd like us to, but the reason why we're a safe space is because you're not automatically referred to a clinical mental health unit, and where you might have had a very bad experience last time, which means you have nowhere to talk safely.
So what we would do is we'd try and encourage you to look at what resources you might have. It might be the first time you've spoken about these things, and you might find when you think about it that you've got someone that you think that you could talk to, or we may encourage you to go to other services. But it's very much led by the person that comes in and what they want and how they can best be kept safe. But you're right, there's a limit to what we can do because we're not open all the time. And we don't sort of say, well, come in and see us next time. We'll say we're here. If you want to come again, that's fine. But it's not like, you know, when I was doing medical work, you'd organise for someone to come in the next day and perhaps a few days after that and so on. We don't do that. Yeah.
Having said that, there's a limit to what any service can do in regards to suicide prevention, you know. But we follow the ASSIST protocol, which is a training provided by Living Works, which works through where a person finds himself, circumstances around that, other people that can support them, a sort of a casual sort of safety plan around removing means to suicide, etc., and inviting the person to come back, finding reasons for that person that they want to come alive by drawing it out through conversation, why they might want to stay alive. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. I was quite shocked to hear of the suicide statistics when I moved to regional Victoria. And it's something I've given some thought to. I'm wondering, I mean, it's fine if you can't answer this because it's a very specific question, but I imagine there's a lot of literature around the effectiveness of different interventions in avoiding potential suicides. And I'm sure Roses in the Ocean in supporting you guys would have seen that as a worthy model of supporting. Are you aware of the effectiveness of safe spaces like you provide compared to other types of services? I'm thinking like mental health workers in schools, and I'm sure there's a few different options there. Is there evidence? Yeah.
Because we don't usually get feedback on what happens to those people after we see them. You know, I've had, and Rachel has too, I've had what seems to be some very significant conversations with people, but they don't usually get back to me.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this has made a difference, or
But most guests before they leave would say, "This has made a big difference to me." We're just not quite sure of the future effects.
Yeah.
But we do know that the research done by Roses in the Ocean does show that this method is particularly effective because you're actually addressing the needs of the person, which is to be listened to, and to be understood. We do know that we are also providing a space where someone can go with no risk of being sent anywhere against their will, and that they can retain their own agency, and that's unique. And according to the Roses research, that does save lives.
but also a lot of people that come in are not actively suicidal. They may just be feeling lonely or disconnected, or, you know,
precursors to.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hastwell.
Sorry, this is it's such an important area, and it's hard not to keep asking questions. But I guess, you know, you'd also be seeing people who are affected by the suicide of others, and I really conscious about the toll that that kind of role can take on the workers, on the volunteers yourselves. And so do you also have, you know, a professional sort of counselling or debriefing services that are available to you to make, you know, to look after your own well-being?
We do. Roses in the Ocean provides those services for our peer volunteers and for our working group. And we also run a monthly peer support group specifically for people bereaved by suicide. So those guests are usually directed towards that group.
Great, thank you.
and we also concentrate on having a peer network. So we have social events with our volunteers every quarter, just to try and build up those relationships between the volunteers so they can be supportive of each other.
And just bearing in mind that a requirement to be a peer volunteer of this Castlemaine Safe Space is to have lived experience of suicidality, either having thoughts of suicide yourself, attempted suicide, supporting someone who's suicidal, or
having lost someone.
having lost someone to suicide, as you mentioned. Yeah. So it's not new, it's not unexpected to those individuals. We interview people, we assess whether we feel people are ready, and they make their own choice after doing a few shadow shifts. So people are aware of what they're going to be coming across.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Rachel, and thanks for the work you do. So that concludes the public submissions for today. So I want to thank the members of the public who have brought their submissions to us today. It's been really interesting to hear those firsthand. And thanks to council officers and executive and councillors for your time and diligence in your questions and your focus. So section 5, we have no confidential items. So at 7:39, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.